Tamu.
Thank you for joining us on Healthy Living. Stay connected to Voice of America at voanews.com. A look at your kidneys and how they impact your health. And an expert discusses chronic kidney disease and how to protect yourself. And Ivorian psychologist Noor Bakayoko shares some insights on bullying and what can be done.
It's important to avoid major events or major health crises.
How do you know if your cough is due to a serious condition? We'll have some answers. Stay well
and strive to make every day a healthy day.
The young generation awakens on Y254, the leading youth TV station in Kenya. We treat you to current affairs, entrepreneurship, health, and human interest conversations.
It's art, it's culture.
Movies, gossip and trends, sports,
Drama.
We bring you a vibe like no other, straight to your living room.
to keep you informed, inspired, entertained, and most of all, refreshed.
We are such a vibe.
Y254. Imagine.
And here we are yet again. It's a beautiful Tuesday morning, the 14th day of January. How are you doing? I hope that your day has started off well. My name is Vivian Degwa. Welcome to Good Morning Kenya. We are broadcasting to you live from the broadcasting house. I have with me my fellow colleagues. I have Mike Migwe as well as Mary Yambo. And today being a Tuesday, it is a day where we get to have a segment where we talk about health matters. Today is no different. I will be having a conversation on hearing impairment, and more specifically we will be talking about solving hearing disability using technology. We'll also get to look at some of the causes of hearing impairment, and just to let you know about the statistics as it stands right now on hearing loss. We have in Kenya, in every 1,000 children, 14 of them have moderate or severe hearing loss. 14 is a big number. So this is definitely something we want to talk about and try to see how technology is or can be used to solve this impairment. You definitely want to stay tuned for that, as I will be joined by one J.K. Shah, who is the Director, Express Nova Limited. We'll be having that conversation at exactly 9 a.m. Mike, good morning.
Good morning to you, Vivian and Marie, and to everyone who is watching KBC Channel 1. Welcome to the program. My name is Mike Migwe, and today being a Tuesday, People and Politics is our segment where we talk about politics and everything in between. Today is the day that the vetting of the 3 CSs that were appointed by the president is going to take place. And be sure to tune into KBC because we'll be bringing you news about that. And also, the CJ has been under pressure from some quarters to quit, and she has remained adamant and says she has work to do, and she also has a tenure. So we'll keep tabs on that and inform you accordingly. Meanwhile, the president is still keeping off the politics of Mount Kenya. So henceforth, how is that going to pan out? And still, the talk about abduction still continues. It's one of the things that is making headlines in this country. So we shall be addressing that. Also in studio, I'll be joined by Wakili Peter Wasaga, who is an advocate of the High Court and also George Kithi, who is also an advocate of the High Court, as we look also at the options that the government have in terms of raising money to run government. So you want to tune in and find out more about that conversation. Good morning, Marie.
Well, a very good morning to you from wherever you're joining us. My name is Marie Yambo, and just as my colleagues have already alluded to, details of some of those stories will be coming up in this particular bulletin. Well, in the highlights this morning, Abdi Mahamoud replaces Twalib Mbarak as at the helm of Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission and pledges to decisively deal with corruption. And former LSK President Nelson Harvey files a petition seeking formation of a tribunal to probe the conduct of the Chief Justice and the entire Supreme Court bench. And human rights defenders accuse Kenya of applying what they term as transnational repression. And let's begin with our lead story there, where Chief Justice Martha Koome has firmly declared that she will not resign. The statement comes hot on the heels of a petition filed by former Law Society of Kenya President, that is Nelson Harvey, seeking her removal from office along with 6 Supreme Court judges. In a petition filed on Monday, Harvey wants President William Ruto to form a tribunal to probe the conduct of the Martha Koome-led bench, citing gross misconduct, misbehavior, and other serious allegations. Here is our reporter Abdiaziz Hashim with more on the new legal battlefront facing the Supreme Court judges.
Chief Justice Martha Koome and the 6 Supreme Court judges find themselves on the receiving end.
This issue of judges taking bribe on a daily basis, on every case they handle, I mean, this is something that has snowballed in the last 10 years. Yes. And that is why people are losing their property.
And that's why we've been emphatic. We'll go for all these judges, and we'll go for the commissioners of the Judicial Service Commission who do not want to do their work.
This is after former LSK President Nelson Harvey moved to file a petition seeking her removal from office alongside Deputy Chief Justice Philomena Mwilu, Justices Mohamed Ibrahim, Smokin Wanjala, Njoki Ndugu, Isaac Lenaola, and William Ouko, citing integrity queries. Harvey, in a 253-page petition, accuses the Koome-led bench of gross misconduct and misbehavior. Further, in the affidavit, Harvey has faulted the Chief Justice for allegedly lacking in leadership and failing to provide direction in the judiciary. Harvey also referred to a 2022 contempt of court ruling in which he, alongside his assisting counsel Esther Angawa and fellow senior counsel Ahmed Nasir Abdullahi, were convicted. On March 31st, 2022, the 7 judges of the Supreme Court of Kenya, acting through the CJ Koome, resolved that Ahmed Nasir Abdullahi and Nelson Harvey will not appear before them. However, in a quick rejoinder, Chief Justice Martha Koome has stated that she is not ready to throw in the towel.
Judicial Service Commission is no longer an option because Martha has made it, a club that protects judges. That is why we are looking for now evidence. That is now we will go frontal attack on the judiciary because, I mean, we can't get justice through the Judicial Service Commission.
We must have the Chief Justice resign. Why do we say so? Because the Chief Justice is the head of the Judicial Service Commission. She chairs the Judicial Service Commission's function. She has evidence of judges who are corrupt, but she's not doing anything.
You asked me whether I would resign. I would also ask you, why would I resign? I have a tenure. I was appointed to serve for a tenure, and you have not given me reasons why you would want me to resign.
Further, she revealed she was yet to see the contest of the petition filed before the Judicial Service Commission, in which she chairs.
I'm actually not aware of the petition that has been brought to the JSC for my removal and the removal of the entire commission. I don't know when it was brought. We had a meeting of the commission on the 7th of January, and it was not tabled before us. Perhaps it's still on the way.
This comes as the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission EACC shared its findings with Koome in regards to corruption within the judiciary.
To come and assist them to deal with issues of corruption that might be existing in the judiciary. And we had already done what we call corruption assessment and gave them a report, which this morning the Chief Justice shared with us the progress that they have made, some of the things that they are doing.
I understand there are many brokers out there who broker for magistrates and for judges. Even if they are not brokers and the judges and magistrates are brokering for themselves, we want to bring this to an end.
Kome had earlier called on the anti-graft and newly appointed CEO Abdi Mohamud to tackle the problem of graft within the judiciary. Harvey has urged the JSC to recommend to President William Ruto to form a tribunal to investigate the conduct of the 7 Supreme Court judges to have them forced out of office.
Now, EACC CEO Abdi Mohamud has pledged to deal with cases of graft decisively and ensure any proceeds of graft are recovered and returned to the state. Mohamud, who took over as the anti-graft boss following the exit of Twalib Mubarak, made the remarks during the swearing-in ceremony presided over by the Chief Justice Martha Koome. Further, he pledged to ensure that during his 6-year tenure, he will ensure that the Commission upholds its integrity as well as tackle the challenges of bribery along the roads.
It is not actually the amount or the action done by the traffic police officer at that time. What we are looking at is the consequence that arises out of the action of the officer who may have received a bribe. If, for example, in the process, one public service vehicle gets involved in an accident and kills people, that is a huge loss. So the actions of the outcomes of the action is actually what is of more concern. Another example I may give is if, for example, an immigration officer at our points of entry receives a bribe and lets in someone who is a security threat to our country. He may have received 1,000 shillings or 2,000 shillings. But when you consider the consequences of his action, that is what we are looking at.
So we need to work very collaboratively to ensure that judiciary is doing what they're supposed to do without any hiccups of hindrances, but also that we also do our part so that we make your work easier.
So we will work together mainly to educate the public that in the judiciary, justice is not for sale. I understand there are many brokers out there who broker for magistrates and for judges. Even if they are not brokers and the judges and magistrates are brokering for themselves, we want to bring this to an end.
Away from that, President William Ruto says the government will educate, mentor and support children to exploit their talents so that they can productively contribute to the transformation of the country. The president says the introduction of the Kenya Certificate of Secondary Education KCSE media series is a testament of the government's resolve to accord candidates a second shot at academic excellence so that they can become part of Kenya's transformation journey.
Of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Ngando, Dagoretti South, Nairobi County. President William Ruto officially handing over the Lenana School primary tuition block and school uniforms to more than 2,500 learners. The head of state says the government is committed to streamlining the education sector by offering quality education and mentorship for posterity. With the recent announcement of the introduction of the Kenya Certificate of Secondary Education KCSE media series, Ruto says the move is a deliberate effort at giving candidates who did not sit the exam owing to external factors or those keen on retaking a subject a second shot at academic excellence.
Na tutahakikisha ya kwamba hiyo mtihani tutaikamilisha kwa muda ili watoto wakifanya vizuri zaidi wanaweza kuungana na wenzao wanaenda university mwezi wa 9 so that we can also encourage more of our children to qualify. Kwa sababu it is not right to condemn some of our children on account of one or two subjects that they may have failed for one reason or another.
He announced an additional 1 billion shillings allocation to constituencies in Nairobi County in the next financial year, meant to ease congestion in public schools, targeting to build 3,500 new classrooms.
Nairobi ndio iko na changamoto kubwa sana ya watoto wa kusoma shuleni. That is the challenge we have in the city of Nairobi. Na haiwezekani Nairobi ikiwa ndio sura ya Kenya, iwe ndio mahali ambapo watoto wengi hawasomi kwa sababu hawana mahali pa kwenda shuleni.
Umetupatia pesa 58 million kila mbunge tujenge madarasa, na hiyo pesa tuko nayo, tunafanya kazi kule kwa ground.
Hivi leo Mheshimiwa Rais, tunakushabikia, tunakusherehekea, tunakupea asante za kipekee kwa kuweza kutufungulia block hii mpya ya madarasa 24.
There's in addition to 14,000 classrooms already completed across the country that he says have streamlined the grade 9 transition under the competence-based curriculum CBC. Emphasizing on the need for partnership, President Ruto called on parents to remain wary of bad elements within the Kenyan political ranks, keen on inciting and impacting bad morals on young ones.
Kuna wengine wanachochea hawa watoto wetu. Ati wanachochea hawa watoto ati endesheni matusi. Wewe ni mzazi wa aina gani? Wewe ni kiongozi mwenye akili aina gani? Ati unawachochea watoto wetu waendeshe matusi, waendeshe mambo mabaya, waendeshe tabia mbaya. Mimi nawauliza kama wazazi, let us look after our children.
Mimi naomba ya kwamba tuweke nidhamu na heshima ili tuwe nchi nzuri yenye nidhamu na heshima.
Nilisema kama unajua una boma ingine kwingine, kaa hapa, wacha matusi, usitusi president, heshimu Mheshimiwa Rais.
John Jacob Kuria, Prime Edition.
Thank you, JJ Kuria. Now, a day after Public Service Cabinet Secretary Justin Muturi raised concern over the alleged abduction of Kenyan youth and called on the government to hasten investigations, leaders have continued to express diverse views. While a section is in support of his sentiments, terming them bold, others want him to resign, saying he undermined the president.
4 hours later, the dust appears far from settling, following sentiments by Public Service Cabinet Secretary Justin Muturi on abductions in the country.
The security forces should arrest and bring to book all those that are involved in the abductions without fail, and all the young people being held in illegal captivity should immediately be freed.
Aldai Member of Parliament Marianne Kitani has called on the CS to resign, saying the sentiments were meant to undermine the president.
Wewe ujiuzulu, kuja ongea huku nje kama raia mwema. Ushike microphone kama raia mwema ukiongelesha ukigonga hiyo serikali. Lakini huwezi gonga serikali ukiwa ndani yake. Haiwezekani. Na usipojiuzulu, mimi nitapeleka motion bunge ya kusensha wewe.
Speaking in Magombeni area, the MP questioned why Muturi had not reported the matter concerning the abduction of his son months ago and only chose to speak now.
Kuna kitu inaitwangwa kwenda kuripoti kwa police station. Kutoka hiyo miezi 6 tangu siku hiyo aliyekuwa abducted na kurudishwa paka saa hii hujaenda kuripoti kwa police station. Unataka nani akufanyie hiyo kazi? Kwa nini hukuenda kwa hiyo cabinet useme juu ya hiyo mtoto yako na watoto wengine wa Kenya? Kwa nini hukusema?
Her sentiments come as Maragwa Member of Parliament Mary Waithera applauded Muturi for speaking up against abductions.
Mpaka saa hii Justin Muturi yeye ni CS wa Public Service hajawahi pata sababu gani mtoto wake akawa abducted. Kwa hivyo aliongea kwa uwazi akitaka kushikana na wale wazazi ambao watoto wao wametekwa nyara. Na kusema jambo fulani ni baya, sio kusema Your Excellency hatukuheshimu. Sisi ndio tulikuchagua. Kumbuka Mauti Kenya, zile kura ilikupea kwa sababu ilikupenda.
And speaking separately in Ituru village, Gatundu South, during a funeral service, former Interior Cabinet Secretary Dr. Fred Matiang'i called on Kenyans to embrace peace and sobriety and listen to the voice of the church.
Shida zetu ama our challenges do not distinguish between which part of the country you come from, which tribe you belong to, where do you go to church, and so on and so forth. Ama namna gani? Basi tufuate vile tunaelezwa na viongozi wetu hapa wa kanisa. Tupendane, tusidi kuombeana na kukaa pamoja.
Nimesema hivi, we just need one presidential candidate. Between now and 2027, we are going to make a very incredible opposition.
Thank you, Nancy Okwari, for that report. And moving on, a section of human rights defenders led by Amnesty International has faulted the Kenyan government for applying what they term as transnational repression after the alleged abduction of Tanzanian journalist, that is Maria Sarungi. The scribe, who is known for her sharp criticism of the Tanzanian government, was reportedly abducted in Nairobi on the 12th of January 2025, an incident that has since sparked uproar among human rights defenders. Sarungi, who has broken her silence for the first time since the ordeal, has narrated the harrowing experience in the hands of her alleged abductors. She says the abductors acted on behalf of the Tanzanian authorities in an orchestrated attempt to silence her activism. She has at the same time challenged the Kenyan government to protect the rights of asylum seekers in the country.
They said, no, relax, we're taking you to the station. Then again, I tried because I felt like there is traffic. I tried to see if I can get out. Again, they tightened my handcuffs again, and they were making me lie down to my right. The guy who was holding me like that. The guy on the other side was holding the handcuff, was pulling my handcuff and sat on my legs. So I was begging them, don't sit on my leg because now you're hurting me and my back. After that, I remember that we were going more, and eventually what they were saying was that they're going to release me, but I must not look back. I cannot look at the car once they remove it, and I have to wait until I hear the car disappear. So I walked until I got to what looked like a main road, and I judged from the vehicles that the vehicles were coming from that side. So I decided that's probably where a lot of people are. Those people who come across trying to abduct us and trying to harm us across the borders should not be given any leeway. There should be a very intensive crackdown on the borders to ensure that these kind of security exchanges don't happen.
When foreign nationals do not feel protected, they don't feel secure in this country, then this is really dangerous.
Now, at least 6 county aggregation and industrial parks will be commissioned by the end of 2025 if the national and county governments manage to iron out challenges in marketing, production and policy gaps. In a meeting with county governors, Deputy President Kithure Kindiki added that the national and county governments ought to work together in addressing implementation bottlenecks within various counties on a case-to-case basis.
So far, according to the data from the Ministry of Trade and Investments, shows that so far 4.7 billion shillings has been allocated towards the implementation of county aggregation and industrial parks, which are underway in 14 counties. The project has faced some challenges in marketing, production and policy changes.
And then there are market issues, and some of them have policy implications, where national governments will require to make certain policy decisions.
However, Deputy President Kithure Kindiki says that the government is consequently working on project coordination, monitoring and county support in the upcoming phases of KIPE's implementation.
We can, between the national government and county government, go to the field and address the completion and other issues on a KIPE by KIPE basis
to make sure that by the time the KBC is commissioned, it is operational and it gives the value that was intended to be given.
The Ministry of Trade and Investment projects implementation in 3 phases over 2 years. The first phase targeting 14 of the 47 counties, while the second phase targeting 26 counties, and the last phase handling the remaining 7 counties.
A look at business, where the second phase of the government's performance evaluation exercise for the 2023-2024 financial year, targeting the Kenya Revenue Authority alongside other state corporations and ministries, has kicked off. Deputy Chief of Staff in charge of performance and delivery management at the Office of the President, that is Eliud Owalo, stated that the evaluation exercise at the agency seeks to enhance revenue collection by broadening, of the tax base and streamlining the facilitation of tax returns.
The government has launched a comprehensive evaluation of its ministry's performance for the 2023-2024 financial year. Over the past year, ministries, state corporations and tertiary institutions submitted quarterly performance reports via the Government Performance Contracting Information System. Today, the Performance and Delivery Management Unit in the Executive Office of the President began the performance evaluation process at the Kenya Revenue Authority headquarters, with plans to assess other ministries and state corporations. Deputy Chief of Staff Eliud Owalo emphasized that the evaluation will focus on specific interventions, including enhancing revenue collection, widening the revenue base, facilitating tax returns, and improving customer satisfaction levels.
Modify the indicators, we cannot modify the targets that were set. So we are here to look at the evidence of performance in line with the commitments that were made during the activity period 2023-2024.
These parameters were agreed upon during the signing of performance contracts. Owalo highlighted that the ongoing digitization efforts have significantly boosted KRA's tax collection capabilities, with over 20,000 government services now accessible online.
In line with the government's overall objective of enhancing the level of domestic revenue, that largely those targets and indicators were met. But the government has undertaken all measures necessary to augment your efforts towards enhancing the level of domestic revenue.
The KRA Commissioner General Humphrey Watanga reported notable achievements, revealing that KRA collected 2.4 trillion shillings in 2023, a remarkable 11.1% increase from 2.16 trillion shillings collected in 2022.
Thank you, Carol Njenga. Let's look at sports now, where former Kenyan international and current Football Kenya Federation Deputy President McDonald Mariga will be one of the 3 officials conducting the draw for the 2024 African Nations Championship, that is CHAN, on Wednesday night at the KICC. Mariga will conduct the draw together with Uganda's Hassan Waswa and Mrisho Ngasa of Tanzania, representing the 3 host nations for the 8th edition of the Continental Tournament for home-based players, set to run from the 1st to the 28th of next month. A total of 19 national teams, including host nations Kenya, Tanzania, Uganda, and defending champions, that is Senegal, will compete in the tournament. Mariga was the first Kenyan footballer to play and win the UEFA Champions League, and also won the Serie A title, 2 Coppa Italia titles, and the FIFA Club World Cup with Inter Milan. He played 40 games for Harambee Stars, scoring 5 goals. A look at rugby, where the Kenya national rugby sevens team will play New Zealand in their opening match of the Perth Sevens, which is the 3rd leg of the HSBC Sevens World Series later this month. The Perth Sevens will be held from the 24th to the 26th of this month.
The Kenya national rugby sevens team will head to Australia later this month for the Perth Sevens, which is the third leg of the HSBC Sevens World Series.
Wakesa off his bootlaces. Wakesa stumbling and scoring. That does it. That's the ball game. And the dream for Kenya crystallizes before their eyes.
The Kenyan squad, pooled with giants New Zealand, Fiji and Uruguay, will be named on Wednesday this week ahead of their trip to Australia. Kenya will begin the third leg against New Zealand on the 24th of this month before playing Fiji in their second game 5 hours later. They will wrap up their pool matches against Uruguay on 25th of this month. After the first two legs held late last year in Dubai and Cape Town, Kenya are 9th on the series table with just 11 points, 1 point behind 8th placed Australia and a massive 25 points behind leaders Fiji.
He has left them trailing in his wake. Oh, the Kenyans are back.
There are so many reasons why Kenya should be back on the World Series, and one of them is definitely their try-scoring celebrations. No matter how much they're feeling the pressure, they've always got a time for the love of the game.
After the Perth Sevens, the teams will return home to prepare for the fourth leg set for Vancouver in late February and then the Hong Kong Sevens in March.
One of the biggest, meanest, most important players.
That story brings us to the end of the news this morning. Thank you so much, as always, for your company. Remember, we bring you live proceedings of the National Assembly vetting of 3 cabinet nominees in a session expected to draw significant public attention. They include former Cabinet Secretary Mutahi Kagwe, that is for health, and former Kiambu Governor William Kabogo, and former Nakuru Governor, that is Lee Kinyanjui. All of them set to appear before the Committee of Appointments just to defend their suitability for the ministerial position. So stay with us if you can for that live coverage. My name is Marie Yambo. Let's do this again tomorrow.
Blood Wildlands.
Thank you for joining us on Healthy Living. Stay connected to Voice of America at voanews.com. A look at your kidneys and how they impact your health. And an expert discusses chronic kidney disease and how to protect yourself. And Ivorian psychologist Noor Bakayoko shares some insights on bullying and what can be done.
It's important to avoid major events or major health crises.
How do you know if your cough is due to a serious condition? We'll have some answers. Stay well
and strive to make every day a healthy day.
The young generation awakens on Y254, the leading youth TV station in Kenya. We treat you to current affairs, entrepreneurship, health, and human interest conversations.
It's art, it's culture.
Movies, gossip and trends, sports, drama.
We bring you a vibe like no other, straight to your living room.
To keep you informed, inspired, entertained, and most of all, refreshed.
We are such a vibe.
Y254. Imagine.
Welcome back to Good Morning Kenya. This is People and Politics. My name is Mike Migwi, and now I'm joined by Wakili Peter Wasaga, who is an advocate of the High Court. Welcome to the program.
Thank you so much.
And also Wakili George Kithi, also an advocate of the High Court. Welcome.
Asante sana.
All right. So far, we have received the Star newspaper, and we are going to look at what is saying on the front page, even as we wait for the rest of the local dailies. Big test for Ruto. As new budget starts, President has to balance between fiscal sustainability and possible public outreach. The government has breached borrowing limit and has no wiggle room to take loans. Let me start with you, Wakili Kithi. What are the options so far? Because we have hit the borrowing limit, and the chances of increasing taxes are very small.
Well, budgeting process is basically a legislative process that gives the government, or those in power, the power to, well, of course, make arrangements, basically match what the public needs will be, or the government needs will be, a police around it, and eventually legislate on the same. And therefore, the principal arms that are involved are the proposal made by the executive through Treasury, and then the process is basically forwarded for purpose of representation to Parliament. And Parliament makes the law, basically, on where to get the money from and to appropriate, use the money, and empower the government to use money. The government, even if there's money and there's no power to use it, cannot use the money. Suffice it to say, therefore, that it is through representation that the people of Kenya allow those that are in power to take their money from them through a process of legislation. That's a very robust debate in recent times. And then money will be used for the people and for the benefit of the country, including development. Now, ordinarily, nobody comes to power with his own money to use the money for the people. So those that campaign to get into power, including for presidency, governor, and all that, they basically are asking you, put me into power, then you give me money so that I can work for you. That's really the relationship. But there are safeguards that have been put into place, including that there is not only the two institutions that have been the only ones. We have put something called public participation in the context, so that then the public has a direct say into how their funds are going to be used. So obviously everything that's going to be proposed has to go back to the people for approval or for their input. Now, last year wasn't very good in as far as that process is concerned, because it triggered questions, hue, outcry, and basically it was an emotionalist process where the people continuously, persistently, consistently, and insistently told the government that we do not want to give you this money. We want to give a certain percentage of the money, but not the taxes that you're asking. But of course, in that whole cycle, the organs that have more power in decision making are probably the executive and Parliament. The people will render their pronouncements and their what options they would want, but it is because the Constitution says so. In fact, public participation is probably an irritant to government, because it's a process where you go back and listen to views. You don't have to follow them. There's no mechanism upon which public participation is a legislative process. The legislative process is by Parliament. And because it was irritant, they were ignored. Because they were ignored, they went back to Article 1 and pushed their way to be heard. And that's why the Gen Z protestations came to be. Suffice it to say that the budgeting process as of now becomes a big test, as now is highlighted, in the context of what I have said and what happened last year. In effect, therefore, there'll be a lot of watchful eye from the public. The legislative process and obviously the executive are going to participate anyway. But in terms of the public, it's going to be to provide a very watchful eye and Article 1 of the Constitution and the right of public participation, a right in the Constitution, so that what is being done, it is responsive to the people and the current situation of the economy today. Meaning, therefore, I think the issue will be, are we being overtaxed as a people? Are we giving the government enough? And is there accountability? So I think the processes, the emotional process, as will be carried forward from last year to this year, will be that which we gave you, have used it enough? That which you protested against in terms of the largesse of use of money, wantonly displaying it out there without being accountable, has it been accounted enough so that we give you more of it in terms of increment of taxes? So I think the balance here, the emotional balance, is going to be, do we increase taxes, and to what extent, so that we don't trigger the public participation retaliatory attacks that we had last time through agencies and the public? Or alternatively, do we maintain what we have now that we busted our ceiling in terms of borrowing? Do we then maintain that process and we degenerate the country into more debt problems? And therefore, I think it's not going to be easy. But again, it will have a better and more closer eye to the public, to the Kenyans, as opposed to the whim of the executive and those that are in power in parliament.
Okay. The biggest predicament for the government right now is increasing taxes could trigger fresh public outreach. But now the status quo leaves the government with a fiscal deficit. What do you think are the options?
Thank you so much. I love how my senior Keithy has put it. One thing is very clear, that one of the main sources of revenue for Kenya is through taxation. Actually, it's the main, then the borrowing comes second, both domestic and international borrowing. But there is one thing that we also need to question: the role of the people in the budget-making process, and whether their views are put into consideration, given that that was the main bone of contention in the Gen Z protests. We elect not as robots, but we elect to be represented. That is why that delegatory role is given to the citizens. The power belongs to the people. So if there is adequate consultation, and the consultation is put into action, or the public are able to examine and give a testament that their participation was actually taken note of, or an explanation was given to convince them into getting into these new loans, for example, going beyond what we borrow right now, or perhaps just bringing in new taxing options and repealing the existing laws. And that is something that will augur well with the citizens. You see, when we go back to June 2024, what really triggered the electorates or the citizens is that they outrightly objected to the many tax regimes that were introduced in the Finance Bill 2024. But they were all ignored. There was a lot of impunity. There was a lot of braggadocio from the side of the government, and you could see the members of parliament were outrightly not listening to the members of the public. They were only listening to the executive. And it's very interesting that sometimes they listen to the executive, yet they know very well deep down in their hearts that whatever they are doing is very wrong. A classic example is after the president stood to the pressure and decided to refer the finance bill back to parliament for reconsideration after the parliament was after the Gen Z actually went to parliament and caused havoc. The same members of parliament whom we elect to represent us were busy clapping and rejoicing at the president's pronunciation, yet they are the ones who passed this bill without considering the views of the public. one thing when we go to Article 10, which is one of my favorite articles because it enshrines the the principles and the values of governance in this country. One of it is accountability. We need to account for the last finance year, Finance Act 2023, the new tax regimes that were introduced. Were they able to bridge the gap? Were we able to see a shift from the economic angle and all the other angles to warrant the introduction of new taxes? Because when you come to request the public to pay more, they should see value for what they gave in the past finance year. But what happens is that we have budgeted corruption. Things are inflated just for purposes of benefiting few pockets to the expense of the public, so that we give much money, but we still have the same problems. There is increased unemployment. People barely survive in this country. I know you know Migwi. Yet you bring proposals to increase the taxes that are not beneficial to the public. If you could table a report of how the economy has improved, and it could even be scientifically proven through opinion polls, through the living standards of the electorate, then introducing taxes is not a problem, because of course you can account for it. But if few leaders are able to come out, brag with expensive lifestyles at the expense of the public, the citizens who are giving the taxes, then it's obvious that we are not taxing the government. We are not funding the government. We are funding individuals. Then looking at the principles of taxation. Number one, there is also the certainty. You do not just come out from nowhere with exorbitant taxes without certainty, because one, that has a way of imbalancing the citizens and also interfering with businesses, because when there is increased taxation, there is increased production, especially on those areas of production. So those are things that we have to look at this time. But the bottom line, Migwi, is that we have no option. We have no option. We will just have to go dig deeper into our pockets. The only thing that the only tool that we'll now have is to enhance the accountability. Let's speak it out. Let's go to court if there is embezzlements. Let those who are found culpable of embezzling public funds be arrested and held to account, not being shielded by the government that is seeking to eradicate corruption. So we should speak from our mouths, our actions, and our deeds. That will in itself bring confidence to the public.
Wakili here raises a very important aspect of accountability and also seeing value for taxes. Even though, let's say hypothetically, taxes are introduced, they are not as punitive. Is it a matter of paying taxes, or Kenyans are not seeing value for the high taxes that they pay?
Well, we fund government. In fact, if you extend that narrative, we are not in this country for free. We're in this country because we maintain the country through contribution into a central kitty, consolidated fund for the country to run. So nobody's in this country for free. We pay to be in this country. But we pay because we say so, through the process and safeguards that we put into place. Now, democracy has its follies. One of it that we send men and women into a house, some sort of a national delegation conference where they sit and speak for us and decide for us how much we're going to pay to stay in this country, or how much we are paying to be in this country. But when those human persons, human beings get there, they make decisions based on many whims that affect them. The last one is the person who sent them there. That's the last. Otherwise, the executive and many other reasons inform the decisions that they make, including how much money they're going to make in the process. Now, the budgeting process is a bit emotive and is laced with many interests. One of it is ethnicity. You see, times over, legislative process has an ethnic bias into it, to those that are making decisions, the roads that are going to be built, the hospitals that are going to be built, using centralized income of government from its people, but it has to be divided apparently equitably, but of course factually, with biases less in it. The second issue, again, that affects that whole process is the incompetence of the same people that we send to represent us, that is Parliament. Parliament today is the weakest link we have in history of this country. There has never been Gen Z's protests in this country until last year because of the decisions of this Parliament. As my good friend has said, it is because they knew they are doing something wrong and do it anyway. Because they have to do it to please a whim that is not a justiciable whim. Meaning, therefore, committing a wrong for the pleasure of that which then is incorporated in the existential circumstances as will be prevailing at the time. And therefore, Parliament does, if Parliament does not represent the voice of the people and as against and at the pleasure of a service of a certain way, whether foreigners or even certain powers in Kenya, then it means there'll be friction in public. Now, we can excuse, and we ought to excuse the executive for whatever proposal they're making, because they have to preserve themselves. The executive, while in executive seat, as at the time, including the presidency, cabinet, and all, want money and the comfort of having money to discharge whatever they want, including the largesse of doing it. So you give them more money, they will use it. I mean, definitely they're going to spend it. But as they extend the proposal to the highest extent possible for them to be accommodated to take money from us, from the public, there is a checker to it, and that is Parliament. It ought to come in between and contain that use. That's why Parliament has all the three main responsibilities in the Constitution. Legislation is one of them, and I have said budgetary process is a legislative process. The second one is representation. They'll be there to represent the voices because it's a delegate conference of sorts. They have been sent to delegate for the people of Kenya. And the third one is oversight. Very important. It's oversight on the executive. What we have seen is that Parliament has many times over and over and over, failed, so that then, because they have failed, people jump over Parliament and go to court to stop the taxation processes and stop many things that Parliament ought to have stopped in the first instance as a stopgap and as the oversight authority under the Constitution given by the people of Kenya. And therefore, Parliament has failed. Continuously, it persistently fails the people of Kenya. If people go to court to get a result that, for purpose of justice for the people of Kenya, it means somebody hasn't done his job. Why then should we end up in court when in fact we're questioning a legislative process in the first place? So the circumstances, therefore, will be justice must be seen and felt by the people. Justice is in the context of law ordinarily. Context of law in that what the law says is justice. But if what the law says is oppressive, it ceases to be justice. So it is not justice by law. It is justice by the power of the people, by what people feel will be just. So it need only be done through the process of law. It must be seen to be done, in fact. Therefore, we say de jure, by law, there could be what is perceived as justice or put into place in paper as just. But then there is the actual justice, which is by the people of Kenya. And therefore, if you legislate to say VAT goes to 25%, by law, to charge 25% is just. But by the people of Kenya, in fact, it is injustice because you are oppressing them. So law can be oppressive. If Parliament makes bad law, it leads to injustice. So the perception that law is just then stops to make sense. That's why last year, although the legislative process ought to have been just, lead to, I mean, we all subscribe to the law. It was bad law. And therefore people went to protest because in fact, they knew what justice is. And therefore justice is what the people say. What is agreed in the national psyche as just, not what is being legislated. Now, ultimately, let me probably sum it up this way. Ultimately, therefore, Parliament must not speak for itself. It must speak for what is just according to the people.
What is just according to the people. Wakili, now, henceforth, and pegging on what he has said, has Parliament learned its lesson in matters budget process, and are we going to see robust involvement of the public in the same process?
No, Parliament, that's a very difficult question. Has Parliament learned its lesson? No. Because, like Wakili has said, there are so many factors. And most importantly, or most the major factor is the leaning and the attempt to be politically correct. You see, politics in Kenya is ethnicized. And sometimes we support laws not because they are just. We support laws because they are proposed by our person. And so we are trying to cover his nakedness. And that is why something will be outrageously wrong, and everyone can see it as wrong. But parliamentarians will support it with their breath, with their life, and with their blood, because they want to be politically relevant. It's because politics revolve around individuals. So that when you are seen not to be singing the tune of the political god, in quotes, then you risk being decampaigned by the same person, you risk being de-whipped from parliamentary committees, and you risk being left in the political cold. So that is why they support it with their mouths, but deep down their hearts, they do not support it.
But then again, who do they represent?
Exactly.
Is it the powers that be or the people?
That's why I said politics in Kenya revolves around individuals. You see, when you have, or when you belong to a major party, it's very easier for you to sail through. Take, for example, in Nyanza, when you're in ODM, you will win a political seat without any struggle, provided you get the nomination. And sometimes these nominations are not done meritoriously. The nominations are given. You are given. I feel like I should work with Kithi. He understands my ideology. And then they will say, well, once Baba has spoken, who am I to go against Baba? It goes to Rift Valley when Ruto speaks, the president, then who am I to go against the president? So when they go to parliament, they know very well that they do not have the mandate of the people. The people were coerced into voting them in with a narrative that these are the people who will help me up there. Because the politicians always have a choreographed narrative that there is a fight they are fighting up there, either with another person or another tribe. You see, so it becomes a way of whipping the electorates, that these are the guys, these are the individuals who will help our person fight this war and bring us goodies. And you see, silently we still have that narrative of Siasa Mbaya, Maisha Mbaya, though the Constitution of Kenya has cured most of them with the devolution and I mean with the devolution and the new things that were introduced in the Constitution. But still, the members of parliament do not represent us. They represent us de jure. I love how Akili has put it, de jure, but by law. It's in the Constitution, but by fact they do not represent us. If they were representing us, then the vetting process would be very rigorous, like what is going to happen today. They would come out and tell us, they will dig deep, but right now it's something that they are stamping and moving on. And that is why sometimes the legislations that they come up with are challenged in court. The judges look at it, they tell you, no, the procedures were never followed. It's not that the procedures were not seen to be followed initially. It was seen not to be followed, but they insisted because they wanted to please a certain political god. So that is what will happen. It will continue to happen so long as we are still ascribing to that narrative of our person.
All right, that is interesting. We take a very short break. Don't go too far. This is People and Politics.
Thank you for joining us on Healthy Living. Stay connected to Voice of America at voanews.com. A look at your kidneys and how they impact your health. And an expert discusses chronic kidney disease and how to protect yourself. And Ivorian psychologist Noor Bakayoko shares some insights on bullying and what can be done.
It's important to avoid major events or major health crises.
How do you know if your cough is due to a serious condition? We'll have some answers. Stay well
and strive to make every day a healthy day.
Mimi shida zangu zote hapa ndani ya nyumba chanzo chake ni nani? Si ni wewe?
Utachekwa. Yote hayo nayajua.
Yaani nyanya sikujua unampenda Karembo kiasi hicho. Ingekuwa ni mimi ungenidekeza. Mwenda hapo. Haifai kuonekana mkizunguka ovyo ovyo hapa kisiwani mpaka tujue kesi isha vipi.
Karembo wangu. Karembo wewe ni wangu. Na sina mpenzi mwingine usipokuwa wewe.
Tamu.
Greetings in the name of the Most High Jah Rastafari. My good name is Marley Moses, the positive warrior, alongside...
Yes, sir, DJ D-Rage, the baddest. Each and every Wednesday from 10 p.m. on KBC Channel 1 TV.
Tunakuletea the biggest reggae party in 254 in a yard extra. Extra niceness of reggae music.
Extra dose of entertainment.
When the thing is nice,
we have to do it twice.
Welcome back to Good Morning Kenya. Wakili George Kithi and Wakili Peter Wasaga joining us here on People and Politics. Now we shift gears and talk about the story that is making headline on the Standard newspaper. Resignation fears in Ruto cabinet as President Ruto grapples with escalating dissent within his cabinet. The stepping down of a senior official yesterday and discontent among pointmen point to deeper fractures. Let me start with you, George. What do you make of this? And this, Rupetin, even with the presser that was done on Sunday by the public CS, that is Justin Muturi, is there disquiet or disconnect within the Kenya Kwanza government administration?
Yes. You see, a wound starts with a pimple. Then it grows and grows and grows and becomes something that needs to be treated.
Yeah.
That's how those rumors, that's how we saw the fall of the deputy president, Rigathi Gachagua. We had those rumors. In public offices, we just in rumors. We just at scars that we know leads to wounds. We see the scars, we don't see it as a wound. But behind the scar, we understand and we know that there's a wound. A person who comes out and discharges a public protest in the odium that we saw of Muturi is wounded, is unhappy, and therefore says that with the confidence that the last resort is to go public. Now, when you're going to castigate government in the manner that he did, you don't just walk there and do it, you plan. In fact, you sleep over it, whether it's the right thing today and tomorrow and a week and probably even months. And by the time you say, now I'm going to do it, because you don't wake up and do it, it means you planned it, but you have surrounded yourself with certain insulations. Like, for instance, you consult with your party, your family, and political allies in the process, so that as you speak, it's not you speaking, it's a pool of galvanized agreement among certain people that you go say it, and then the support that you get in case of backlash will come from certain quarters. So therefore, it was choreographed and designed for certain implications, and therefore he hosted that discussion in the manner he did, knowing that if there's backlash, he has a defense to it. Even when we go to court, we plan the points of attack and points of defense. And therefore, that was a point of attack with residual points of defenses that are awaiting the backlash.
Yeah.
So having said that, yes, there's disquiet. Yes, there's a problem. And it is not ordinary. That's why we are discussing it. It is not ordinary because of the principle of collective responsibility, as it were, in government, which is basically a bounden duty to any of those that work with government. The history of Muturi, we know, he narrated it in his speech, how he came to Kenya Kwanza, because he was a very close ally of President President Uhuru Kenyatta. How he moved to William Ruto, I think, was probably an understanding that was there in some of the social contracts and political contracts that they entered into at the time. But looks like that, again, is broken or has been probably frustrated, and therefore he comes out fighting. But why is he fighting? He's fighting because his backyard is Mount Kenya, and it's unsettled. It's unsettled because of certain political decisions or political disquiet that has happened in the recent past. So we expect a lot of this to happen first at the base of Mount Kenya in the first instance, because of what is happening in Mount Kenya, consolidating into a protest as against the government as it is. In fact, if you look at the president movement in the country, his association with the people and his interaction with the people of Kenya, he avoids certain areas. First area he's avoiding is Mount Kenya because of the disquiet. And obviously, Mount Kenya is unsettled and therefore less receptive to the president as comparing to how he was received initially when he was campaigning and when he came to power. And that continues depending on what happens, because a day in politics in Kenya is far too long. Now, where are we left to in terms of Kenyans for purpose of analyzing the situation as it is? I do think that the Mount Kenya disquiet is also in the house, at the Hill. I do think that there is a way Mount Kenya people are treated wherever they are by government officials suspiciously. And therefore, in terms of their interaction and government, they feel the disquiet in the corridors of power. They feel there is quiet where government is and is present. And therefore, assuming you are a county commissioner, in a pool of county commissioners, but you're from Mount Kenya, you will feel that it's quiet in that environment on account of the politics prevailing at the time, because you are being watched suspiciously. And that, as that continues, then the boiling points will simmer at a point on account of the fact that resignation will probably be seen more from Mount Kenya than any other place. But of course, fast forward, the intolerance will be speaking to all that. The intolerance to dissenting voices and the Mount Kenya nation. Because you become intolerant to a perceived enemy in person, but also collectively. So the collective psyche of Mount Kenya nation is anti-government and therefore opposition-based as we speak, on account of the culminating, cumulative political issues towards, Rigathi Gachagwa's impeachment and how they are placed in the appointments as we see them and participation in public affairs, and also the interactive environment of the president and government with Mount Kenya. We see it, and it's factual. Suffice to say, therefore, that the disquiet is probably ethnic, partly. The disquiet is probably in the context of the political reorganization, as is happening now, and political based. But the first emotional fissure that we have in government and in our society today, because in any society there'll be fissures of separation. Sometimes it's the clan, sometimes it's religion, sometimes it is ethnicity. What we have taken up by default or otherwise as a Kenyan, as Kenyans, is we divide ourselves robustly and emotionally, ethnically. And therefore, that continues to permeate even in government. The disquiet and the separation in government, therefore, can only be what the society mirrors, and therefore, it must be ethnic-based. So ethnically, therefore, the disquiet shall form itself more robustly as we move, because then we are moving towards, again, what will inform or what is expected to be a campaign period very soon. Maybe not now, but in a few months, it will pick its own life, and you can't stop it, because that's a movement of reorganization towards 2027 elections.
Now, Wakili Wasaga, I want to get your sentiments on this, and also the aspect where this discontent may stem from a point where some of these CSs harbor political ambitions for elective seats. And some of the things that have been cited is also that the working environment is hostile and their roles have been reduced to just formality.
Thank you so much. You see, one thing about politics is that nothing in politics happens as a mere coincidence. Everything is well planned, well choreographed, and are executed to meet a certain political goal or objective. In this case, the objective is very clear. There is the reading of the ground and the hearing of the ground. It's very obvious that as we speak, things are getting out of hand for the Kenya Kwanza regime in Central. The president knows it. He has tried as much as he can to salvage it, but the more he digs, the more it gets deeper. The more he tries, the more he tries to cover it, the more it gets deeper, the more the escarpments develop. And politicians, they see it. What I expected from Muturi was to resign. In that speech, one of the statements I expected from him was to tell us that, given the foregoing, I hereby tender my resignation. But because he knows that he wants to dig some sympathy, of course, whatever he's raising are very cogent. But again, the timing and the manner in which it is executed It is well planned and well geared towards meeting a political objective. One, there is no non-Mount Kenya kingpin as we speak. As things stand, Rigathi Gachagua may be used to mobilize the electorates, but does not have the legal standing to vie for the presidency, given the impeachment, until the same is overturned. And one of the mistakes the Mount Kenya people did in the previous election was to get into Kenya Kwanza, or was to get into government without a political party. And this has worked to their disadvantage. You see, the former DPS lamented about it. So there is a vacuum, and my analysis is that Muturi has seen it, and he wants to feel it. Most probably, when the frustrations come and the push becomes much, he has already hinted that he does not fear the axe, then he'll be very willing and ready to revive DP, the Democratic Party, that he was the chair, I think so. And when this happens, he shall have gotten the backing of the Mount Kenya people. He shall be the hero. He is one who has spoken about the real matters that are affecting the Kenyans, the abduction. Those are things that are very live. Number two is the Embu gubernatorial seat. You see, after cabinet, and with the suspicion that my seniors rightfully explained, that right now most of the Mount Kenya officials and officials in government, be it cabinet secretary, PSS, they are viewed with lots of suspicion. So they will be there as the symbol, but most of the work are done by other quarters or other people. So that's why sometimes they will just be the cabinet secretaries by name, but by fact they already lost the ground. You could be there, everyone knows you are the cabinet secretary, but there is nothing. So what happens? Cecil Mbarire is the chairman of UDA and the current governor of Embu. It is whispered, not even whispered, it is shouted that Cecil Mbarire orchestrated the removal of the DP. He was one of the people who actually orchestrated the whole process, together with the president, being the chairman of UDA. So the people of Embu are very ready with the axe to send her home. And when they do that, how can Muturi survive? Because Muturi, for a very long time, he has been in appointive positions. I mean, he was a magistrate, then he became a speaker for 2 terms, right? With the 2 terms, then after that, he became the AG. After the AG, he is now the cabinet secretary. What happens if he falls short of glory, which I know he has already fallen short of glory with the house of at the Hill? What happens next? He has to fight for a political survival. And one of the ways is to come out very courageously, very boldly, to castigate the government. And he's castigating the government with facts which are live and which are making sense to everyone across board. Number 2 is coming out as a victim whose son had been abducted. And what is he telling us? He's trying to tell us that, you see, in this government, it doesn't matter whether you are in government or not. The level of impunity is something that is beyond everyone. It is only known to a few sects within the government and the security apparatus. Because he had the option of just blaming the security apparatus, but he blamed the Kenya Kwanza government. What is he trying to tell us? He is taking the blame squarely to the president. Then he went ahead and said that, you see, when I joined this government, I was warned. Meaning that he's trying also to tell the president and the people of Mount Kenya that it was a sacrifice we did, and our sacrifice has not been appreciated, despite being warned by our close acquaintances, by our close friends. We decided to support. You remember the same narrative Rigathi Gachagua also raised, that I was warned by my family members against supporting the Kenya Kwanza government, but I supported it. So what is it? The card is very simple. He wants to be frustrated. He wants to be pushed out with an orchestration that is well planned. Then, of course, he will win the sympathy. And before you know it, he'll be one of the greatest contestants in Central, either as a governor against Mbarire or as a possible kingpin to run for the presidency. Remember, it was whispered even last time when they were struggling between choosing Ruto and President Ruto and Raila Odinga in the previous election. There was whispers that Muturi would be fronted by Uhuru Kenyatta to vie as to vie for the presidency. So meaning that he has built that portfolio. He has the capacity. He has the experience, he has held very serious leadership positions, and it will be very easy to sell him. If he was very genuine, because he's raising very serious points, what was very difficult in him just resigning. And the level of, let me now comment on the level of impunity in this government, which actually, if not checked by the members of parliament, by the electorates, then we stand to go back to a banana republic. Because a member of parliament who is very close to the president comes out in broad daylight and tells the country that even if he does not math, we shall math it. We shall add 1 plus 1, and we shall have the president announced. So you are telling us that there is no point of going to vote. We already have our president, and we are even contemplating of extending the term. Then you see another close ally of the president, in the president's presence, abuses Kenyans with very uncouth and backward pronunciation. Do you remember what Farah Malim said? In public, in the presence of the president, and nothing, there's no comment about it. And it shows the level of impunity. It shows the level of carelessness in government and the level of braggadocio in government, that they know that mutadu, we shall still sail through. So any person can easily win an election going against the Kenya Kwanza government, especially on Mount Kenya, in Mount Kenya, where the disquiet is very loud, and already it is seen that they already walked out of the government. So any person who supports this Kenya Kwanza regime is likely to face the axe. And that is not a secret. It is something that is very obvious. So Muturi knows, and most of the Mount Kenya leaders will also follow the suit. Remember Mbaye, the other day, when he resigned, you see the response that he is resigning, and he already lost the job long time ago by the disbandment of the. So meaning that he has been taking the salary, yet the government knows that he already lost the job long time ago, so that his resignation is nothing. It's just being watered down. And so it's something that we see going on, and it will go on, and not only now, but by 2027, the allies, the allies of the president, the Kenya Kwanza government in Mount Kenya, shall have all shifted allegiance. But one last thing that I want to say, that in politics, politics is dynamic, and one slight move can tilt everything. It's very early to predict who will win the elections in 2027, because one move by the president can just bring all the Kenyans on board, and they may just vote for him. And one move by any politician may also tilt the scale. So in politics, there are no permanent friends, there are no permanent enemies. What is permanent is interest and also betrayal.
Interesting. And also you've talked about reckless utterances, which is of course captured on the front page of the Daily Nation. Drums of war. President William Ruto's close allies have in recent days made strongly worded statements vowing to secure him a second term in office in 2027 by whatever means possible, echoing past reckless declarations sorry about that, by politicians that have plunged the country into post-election turmoil. That story is told on page 4 and 5. And here they have put photos of leaders who have used unpalatable words and also others who have vowed to secure the president a second term in office. I don't know, Wakili George Kithi, what do you think of this? Of these utterances by, especially these ones who have vowed to secure a second term for the president by whatever means possible?
How I know government works is that it tries to organize itself into certain patterns. Patterns that are official and patterns that are unofficial. So when, for instance, the president is going for a rally in Bamachoge or Meru or whatever it is, the leaders that go there are invited. And therefore the seat arrangements will be made even beforehand. That is one. Then the leadership, those that would be sitting at the high table, usually meet and predetermine the outcome of that rally. Whether they're going to support so-and-so, whether they're going to pronounce a certain government policy, whether they're going to talk about affordable housing, whatever they're going to say. And the speakers are tasked with pronouncements so that when the president eventually speaks and ordinarily and by protocol speaks last, it's a build-up to what has been spoken before he speaks. So nobody speaks vitriol which has not been choreographed. Nobody speaks without permission. If you understand that, then when you're at a rally, you must observe the first speakers to understand what the president will eventually speak to. He may choose to be silent, and even that silence in itself is an endorsement of that which has already been spoken. And therefore, nobody speaks by default. Everybody speaks matched with the intent of the outcome of that meeting. And we do it. When you go for a rally, assuming you are campaigning, you have people who speak before you. There is the MCA candidate, there is the MP candidate, there will be the senator candidate, senatorial, women rep, the governor, and then the president. That's how it's arranged in a campaign. The MCA will be told to talk about the water problem. The member of parliament will be given another task. Women rep will talk about the GAF and stuff like that and how it has probably been misused or used properly, assuming it's an opposition or a government, whatever it is. So even these rallies, I'll call them rallies, but the meetings with the people, tours that the president does are planned in the same manner. In fact, even transport is planned. There are some who probably will go earlier. There are some who will go by aeroplane, others will go by road, depending on your importance and where you are placed. And others will, in fact, fly with the president himself in the same plane. So by the time a person speaks in the manner that he has spoken, it has been endorsed. And if the president is quiet, then it also speaks to the endorsement of that statement. So those people are speaking towards a certain result. The result is either to threaten, to cajole, or a certain piece that is coming up, a government policy that needs the robustness of government.
What about testing the waters?
Yes, which includes the budgeting process. We are going to be hard on you now so that then you can't even protest. We're going to abduct you now because we're going to budget and we need money and we don't want you to oppose the budget. We abduct you now to instill fear in your hearts so that when we are budgeting, you don't protest again. So even the abductions we have now are speaking to something. They're not default. They're not law enforcement. See, arrest and abduction are two different things. An arrest is a process of subduing a person towards presentation in a court of law and a court process. Abduction has no intention whatsoever of subjecting the person into a court process, but to subdue something including the voice of the person or the right to associate and assembly and so on and so forth. So abduction is not the same as arrest, yet arrest and abduction are all official, being done by people, by officials of the government. And that also then gives alarm towards something. And I think consolidating all what is happening and the pronouncements and what is going on, the government had worst experience in the last budgeting cycle because of the protest. Never again would any leader want to go through that process. And therefore what you do is you start early planning. And those that are planning, including security, Or why don't we subdue them now so that when the time comes, they're all subdued? Break them now so that when the time comes, they're not strong. And that's what you need to do to your enemy. You need to pump fear into the heart of your enemy continuously, persistently, insistently, until such a time that the person cannot rise again. So the people, therefore, because of the protest of last year, and we're entering the budget cycle, they must be fearful enough of the regime in the context of which they cannot then, because there's talk of abusing the internet, and continuously that is, and we see it in action, and we see it in fact because their abduction and their arrest and so on and so forth. That is a process to subdue and prepare for the next budget cycle. They must increase taxes because we can't survive without taxes.
Okay.
And I think things are not very good because we see how the economy is performing. And to do that, you are preparing for another friction with the public.
Right.
But to subdue the public, you must subdue it now, not then. So prepare through actions such as the spoken words and acts that instill fear.
All right. Let's take a short break and we'll be back, and I will be getting sentiments from our Peter Wasaga. Don't go too far. This is People and Politics on Good Morning Kenya.
يا حي لا يموت بدعي بصوت وسكون
Barakatun nika aisaru hunna mihna. Baraka ni kambo kwamba iko na baraka kushinda zote, ni ile ambapo kwamba inakuwa ni yenye kutumia ama inakuwa ina matumizi ambapo kwamba ni madogo sana. Subhanallah, kuna baadhi ya watu ukimwambia wao wanasema bwana, mimi sina gharama bwana.
Mojawapo ya manufaa ya kuwa katika nikah ni kuepushwa na dhambi ya zinaa, ambayo dhambi hii huleta umaskini. Dhambi hii pia huleta ufukara na pia huweza kuleta ugonjwa ama magonjwa yasiyoweza kutibika na magonjwa ya aibu.
I'll punish myself for what I have done. I'm wrong. You won't be able to do anything. You won't be happy without me. Do you know that?
It takes so much time. It is not easy to get a girlfriend. Be patient. Can you do that?
One thing in my head. In this world, nothing can be taken for granted. Age shouldn't be the factor that restrains my mindset.
You're watching Good Morning Kenya. This is People and Politics. And now we want to wind up this segment, and I will give my guest a chance to give their final submission. Let me start with you, Wasaga.
Thank you so much. It's very clear that nothing in politics is an accident. No speech in politics is an accident. No action by a politician is an accident. Everything is well planned, either to instill fear, to exude confidence, or to meet a certain political objective. We are living at a very interesting times as Kenyans. Kenya, Kenya that has always been viewed as a peace haven for the East African community, has become a hotspot for abduction, both for citizens and non-citizens. It is high time that the government takes responsibility and ensures that the public is well secured as enshrined in the Constitution.
All right.
The only time the public has a romantic relationship with those that will be in power is during campaigns. After that, there's an ordinarily friction between those that are in power and those that are being ruled, the ruler and the ruled. So this is normal. It depends to the extensity to which this applies and the friction relation of there too. So what I think is Kenyans must look at this as a normal cyclic thing that's going to be there, not just now, over and over. So the insertion of Article 1 gives them more power to be able to speak more and more on what they want their government to do, not just this one, and maybe even eventual governments. So it's normal. I look at it as normal. The excesses such as abduction and all that, I think those shouldn't be there. I think it's cheap to do that. Repression is bad and it's cheap. But the government should look at it as very normal, and the public should look at it as very normal, and we exist in that environment. Unfortunately, we elected democracy, and it's not going to be easy for anyone getting into power. You must get power to know that you're going to be regulated by certain institutions, including the power of the people. And the power of the people must continue to be present and sacrosanct.
All right. Wakili George Kithi and Wakili Peter Wasaga joining us here on Good Morning Kenya to talk about politics, people and politics. My name is Mike Migwe. This is where we end this segment. Good Morning Kenya continues shortly on both radio and TV. Don't go too far.
Born in 1948 in a small village in Kakamega, Newton Wanjala Kulundu went to Navaholo Primary School before proceeding to Namirama Intermediate School. He sat his ordinary and advanced level examination at Government African School Kakamega and Kenyatta College before enrolling at the University of Nairobi for a bachelor degree in medicine. He capped his academic studies with a master's degree in public health in California, United States. Thereafter, he worked for the Ministry of Health, East Africa Industries, and Brookbond, Kenya, before taking up politics. Contesting on a forum for the Restoration of Democracy Kenya Ford Kenya ticket in 1997, he defeated Javan Omani of the Kenya African National Union KANU and joined Parliament, where he chaired the Parliamentary Health Committee. 5 years later, he was elected under the banner of the National Rainbow Coalition (NAC) and was appointed Minister for Environment and Wildlife in January 2003. Kulundu's Assistant Minister was the Tetu Member of Parliament, world-acclaimed environmentalist and political activist, founder of the Green Belt movement, and later Nobel laureate Wangari Maathai. Together, they laid the ground for the establishment of the Kenya Forest Service Act of 2005. Hailed as one of the most stringent wildlife laws in the world, the act made it difficult for ministers to excise government forest for development projects, as had been the norm in the past. It also set up the Kenya Forest Service, a better resourced state parastatal, to take over management of forests. Kulundu was then transferred to the Ministry of Labour and Human Resource Development. It had come to pass that while the political ground in his constituency shifted in favour of the Orange Democratic Movement towards the end of his second term as MP, Kulundu stood firm behind his party and chose to seek re-election of the Mwai Kibaki's Party of National Unity in 2007. He lost at the ballot to ODM's one-term Atanas Manyala Kea. Kulundu died 3 years later in 2010. Jackie Wambiru, The Cabinet.
Baada kutoka kwenye masuala ya siasa upande wa pili wa kipindi GMK. Karibu tena mpenzi mtazamaji kwenye kipindi Zinga na GMK. Yani GMK alafu una minus alafu una plus, GMK plus Zinga. Hii hesabu sijui itakuwaje, sijui itakuwa negative. Nimechora positive. Tuacha. Mtazamaji, ni wakati mwingine tena tunapokutana hewani kupitia ushirikiano wa KBC Channel 1 na KBC Radio Taifa, sauti ya Mkenya. Mpenzi mtazamaji, na hii leo tunataka kuangazia masomo baada ya KCSE. Kumbuka leo ni siku ya 7 tangu muhula wa kwanza wa shule kufunguliwa mwaka wa 2025. Kumbuka ni muhula wa kwanza. Ni muhula ambao mpenzi mtazamaji, kwa mara ya kwanza katika historia ya Kenya tutakuwa hatuna kidato cha kwanza. Baada ya kutangaza matokeo ya mtihani wa kitaifa wa kidato cha 4 wa mwaka wa 2024, Baraza la kitaifa la mtihani nchini yani NEC lilitoa fursa kwa watainiwa ambao walikosa mitihani yao ya kitaifa au wanaotaka kuirudia ili kutuma maombi yao kupatiwa nafasi tena ya kufanya mtihani huo, swala ambalo limeungwa mkono na Rais Daktari William Ruto. Wito huo mpenzi mtazamaji wa mkurugenzi mtendaji wa Baraza la Kitaifa la Mtihani nchini NEC David Nyengere ulisisitizwa na Waziri wa Elimu Julius Migos Ogamba ambaye alisema mipango inaendelea kuanzisha mfululizo wa mtihani wa KCSE wa katikati mwakani mnamo mwezi Julai. Hapo jana Rais William Ruto akizungumza katika shule ya msingi ya Lenana huko Dagoretti Kusini hapa jijini Nairobi, aliwataka wanafunzi waliofanya mtihani wa KCSE kutumia fursa ya mtihani wa katikati wa mwaka ili kuboresha alama zao na kuhitimu kujiunga na vyuo vikuu kote nchini. Mtazamaji, kufanyika kwa mtihani kuna maanisha idadi ya wanafunzi haswa kwenye vyuo vikuu itaongezeka. Idadi ya wanafunzi waliohitimu kujiunga kwenye vyuo vikuu tayari ni 2,046,391. Mwaka uliotangulia wanafunzi waliohitimu kujiunga kwenye vyuo vikuu ilikuwa ni 201,001, kumaanisha kwamba kuna ongezeko. Swali ni je, taifa hili linaweza kumudu idadi kubwa zaidi ya wanafunzi kujiunga kwenye vyuo vikuu kote nchini? Kwa nini mtazamaji tuandike na mate ilhali wino tunao? Kutusaidia kuelewa masuala haya pamoja na mengine katika sekta ya elimu, leo studioni tunaye Daktari Morris Mutisia, mkurugenzi wa utafiti katika wakfu wa Zizi Africa. Karibu sana daktari.
Asante sana bwana Rashid.
Habari ya mwaka mpya?
Mwaka umeanza vyema.
Ndio.
Tunashukuru Maulana. Na tunaendelea na kupanga mipangilio.
Ndio.
Na sasa wenye tunafanya kazi katika sekta ya elimu kuangalia ni vipi tunaweza kusaidiana pamoja tuboreshe elimu katika nchi yetu.
Labda kwa faida ya mtazamaji na msikilizaji, labda pale Zizi Africa mnafanya nini?
Swali jema. Zizi Africa ni, naweza kusema kwa kizungu ni Research and Advocacy Organization. Yetu ni ile ya kufanya utafiti tupate kuona ni vipi hali ya elimu iko, na kutumia hiyo data tumepata tupate kujulisha ni pipi tunaweza kuboresha elimu katika nchi. Na sasa tunafanya kazi katika East Foundational Skills. Ni zile ngumzo samahana ili mwanafunzi apate kufaulu katika maisha yake.
Na ni utafiti tu wa elimu peke yake mnaofanya, ama pengine labda mnafanya utafiti kwa vijana kama sisi ambao tunataka kuongeza wake?
Sasa tunalinganisha sana katika sekta ya elimu. Lakini ukiangalia kuna vitu kadhaa siati kwa classroom. Kuna vitu kadhaa tunajaribu kuangalia. Ukiangalia elimu iko na issues agenda. Ukiangalia kuna kutoka pre-primary all the way kwenda transition kutoka nje ya kazi. Kwa hivyo pia tunaangalia ni vipi wanafunzi wanaweza kuwa wamejitayarisha vyema wakitoka nje, wako na zile maadili na pia wako na zile skills wanaweza kuingia katika nyanja za kazini, wanaweza kwenda ku thrive. Kwa hivyo tunaangalia within that continuum.
Bila shaka mtazamaji, ni 2:14 saa za kanda ya Afrika Mashariki. Najua kuna wale ambao wamekodoa macho, wameangalia akasema Rashid amesema nataka kuongeza mke wa pili. Yani nataka ku advance. Unajua kuna higher levels za education. Sasa si mke wa pili is in search. Nataka kusoma zaidi. Nini kauli yako kuhusu matokeo ya mtihani wa KCSE katika mwaka huu wa 2024 kwa ujumla ambao ilitolewa na waziri hivi majuzi, ambapo kulikuwa na ongezeko kubwa sana la wanafunzi ukitofautisha na mwaka uliopita?
Asante sana Rashid. Umegusia kwanza ukasema wale wanafunzi waliotimu kujiunga na chuo kikuu ni kama 246,000, na hiyo ni ongezeko la karibu 45,000 kutoka ile mwaka ingine ya 2023. Pia nikitaka kusema hii ni mara ya kwanza ni ile team ya 2020 ilikuwa imefanya mtihani wa darasa la 8, na ukijua wakati ni ule wakati tulikuwa na shida mingi sana za COVID. Walipata kufanya mtihani yao 2021 na walafu wakaendelea na secondary school. Kwa hivyo ukiangalia naone ongezeko la wenye wanaenda secondary school, unaweza wenye wanajiunga na university, unaweza kusema COVID hata ilikuwa na shida, labda hii kuathiri masomo kabisa, kwa sababu tumeona ongezeko. Lakini ya pili, labda ningetaka kukuzia ni ile hasa ukiangalia 2020 wale wanafunzi walikuwa darasa la 8 walikuwa karibu 1,200,000. Ni wangapi walifanya exam? Walikuwa karibu 900,000 na nusu. That's 950 something or 960,000. Na maisha tulipoteza wanafunzi karibu 200,000. Na hiyo ni jambo tunapaswa kujiuliza, hawa wanafunzi wako wapi? Ya tatu ile ningetaka kusema kulingana na matokeo pia, unajua mara mingi tunanguzia wenye wanaenda chuo kikuu, lakini kuna wengine bado wenye kufusu. Na sasa ukiangalia tuko na karibu 3 segments. Ya kwanza ni wenye wanaenda university, au tumesema ni around 246,000. Kuna wale wapo katikati wenye wamepata C minus na D plus somewhere hapo hivyo. Ukiangalia pia hao ni wenye wanahitaji kujiunga na zile polytechnics, national polytechnic technical institution, lakini kuna wenye wamepata chini ya D plus, na hao ndio wengi. Ni zaidi ya nusu, I think ilikuwa 50 point something. Pia ni wanafunzi tunapaswa kuongelelea, cause ndio watahitajika hapa, na ukiangalia tukiwa na Gen Z tukikosa kuwa empower, it means a lot for this nation.
True. Na labda kabla tuingie ndani zaidi kwenye mjadala wetu asubuhi ya leo kuhusiana na elimu, Daktari Morris Mutisia, ule mfumo ambao tuliuzoea kitambo wa kupeana matokeo kidogo umebadilishwa. Sijui unaweza ukasema nini? Unajua zamani kwako tumezoea waziri atasema mwanafunzi wa kwanza ametoka shule fulani, amepata alama fulani ama grade fulani, lakini mfumo huo hakuna. Waziri tu alisema wanafunzi fulani wamepata alama hii, grade hii, hawa alafu akafunga kazi.
Ni vizuri kujifunia. Mtu akifanya vyema ni vizuri kujifunia. Lakini tumetoka mbali. Kuna ule wakati hata waziri alikuwa akisoma zile shule top 10. Unapata kusijua the following day wakirelease, unaona kwa magazeti wameodhoresha hata shule zile 100 sifaulu. Ya pili ni ile pia alikuwa akisoma majina za wanafunzi wanaotenda vyema, hata wenye alikuwa kuna wakati walikuwa akisoma mwenye alikuwa ameimprove sana kutokana na KCPE na KCSE mwenye umeona ame improve. Ni vizuri kutambua wanafunzi, lakini pia venye nilikuwa nimesema, pia unajua kuna wengine labda kwa sababu tofauti hawajapata kufika hapo hivyo. Pia ni vizuri kuwapatia nafasi, wasiende kwa jinsi kana kwamba wao hawafai ama hawajatenda vyema. Mazingira ni tofauti. Nikitaka kurudia kwa statistic kidogo, tuangalie kama mfumo wetu wa current 844 kwenda secondary school, unapata kuangalia wenye wanaenda national schools ni wale wamepata marks za juu. Na ukiangalia zile takwimu zenye waziri alitoa, wale wanafunzi walikuwa wameenda national schools, karibu 83% of them walifusu ama walipata alama ya kuwezesha waende wapi? University. Hiyo ukilinganisha na 11 ya wenye wanafunzi wako kwa sub county school. Ukienda waangalie shule ya sub county na waangalie shule ya national, mazingira ni tofauti, equipment ni tofauti, na vitu hivyo ni tofauti. Tunasema huyu mwanafunzi ako pale chini anajiweza, ni labda zile mazingira yako nazo labda asijamwezesha kufika kama wale wengine. Lakini kwa hivyo ni vizuri kutambua wenye wamefanya vyema, lakini tunaitambua kwa ile hali ya utu. Tusiende tukaona wale watu wengine ni kama wameanguka, lakini si kuanguka katika maisha.
Bila shaka mtazamaji, endapo ndo kwa sasa labda umeamka ukaamua tunataka kufungua runinga ya KBC Channel 1, karibu sana. Huu ni mpango wa ushirikiano kati ya Zinga kupitia KBC Radio Taifa Sauti ya Mkenya na Good Morning Kenya kupitia KBC Channel 1. Ni mpango ambao kujia kila siku ya Jumanne kuanzia saa 2 hadi saa 3. Tunachanganua na kudadavua masuala mengi tu, ikiwa ni masuala ya kijamii, masuala ya kibiashara, masuala ya kisiasa, masuala ya kiafya, masuala ya kielimu. Na ndani ya studio kwa sasa ni naye Daktari Morris Mutisia, mkurugenzi wa utafiti katika wakfu wa Zizi Africa, tukizungumza masomo baada ya KCSE. Nikirudi kwako daktari. Kwa mara ya kwanza idadi ya wasichana waliofanya mtihani wa KCSE mwaka wa 2024 ilizidi ile ya wanaume, nikimaanisha kwamba wasichana 482,202 ambao ni 50.1 ikilinganishwa na idadi ya wanafunzi wa kiume ambao walikuwa ni 480,310 ambayo ni 49.1. Hii inaashiria nini? Ongezeko la idadi ya wanafunzi wa kike.
Swali jema Rashid. I'm a statistician.
Ndio.
Na ningeanza kwanza kusema ukiangalia 50.1 na 49.9 statistically they are not asiko tofauti. Ni kama ni tumefika katika ile kiwango cha 50%. Lakini ukiangalia takwimu za serikali si hata tu hii mtihani wamefanya. Tuko karibu ni gender parity katika sekta ya elimu, sasa wanafunzi wa primary na secondary school. Na tumetoka mbali ukiangalia ile mikakati imewekwa na serikali na pia international ili msichana kupata elimu kama mvulana. Kwa hivyo hii kwanza ningesema ni jambo jema, lakini 50.1 na 49.9 hasijapitana sana. Ni kama tumefika katika ile kiasi sawa. Pia ukiangalia katika population unapata labda kuna wanawake kidogo wengi kuliko wanaume kwa population. Wanawake ni wengi kidogo tu, I think like 3 or so 5% kuliko wanaume. Kwa hivyo tukianza kuona simeanza kupitana hivi, inaanza kulingana na venye population iko. Ya tatu ningetaka kusema ni ile kuanza kuangalia statistic tukiendelea mbele.
Ndio.
Tukianza kuona wasichana wanaendelea kuongezeka, wavulana wanazidi chini, tunapaswa kujiuliza nini inatendeka na vijana. Hasa wa kiume. Tusiende tukafika katika ile nafasi sasa ile nafasi ya kuwa mwanaume ameacha nyuma sana. Kwa hivyo hata saa hizi ni vizuri tukizingatia msichana pia tuzingatie mwanaume. Kuna zile challenges hasa mtoto wa kiume anasipata siku hizi. Ukiangalia katika hii sekta boda ukiangalia ni wengi wenye wanatoka shule unapata wanjipata hapo. Hivyo ukiangalia zile sekta zingine za crime unapata mwanaume ni akona hizi vitu sana. Ukianza kuangalia statistics za accidents again unapata ni yule mwanaume pia, na sasa vijana wamejiunga na hizo vitu. Kwa hivyo nikisema tukianza kuzingatia na ni vizuri kuendelea na kuzingatia msichana ili apate kuwa empowered like kama mwanaume. Lakini pia tuanze kuweka hizi mikakati pia kusaidia kijana mwanaume. Lakini ya mwisho nikikuza ni ile ukiangalia the national level leadership is not be reflected with the population. Unakuta pia mwanaume ni yeye amechukua nafasi nyingi.
Ndio.
Kwa hivyo tunapoelimisha msichana na tunaoenda kuongezeka, ni vizuri pia kuangalia katika sekta ya umma ni pipi pia msichana kuna nafasi sawa na mwanaume.
Na jana Rais William Ruto alizungumzia swala la mitihani ya katikati ya mwaka na kwamba wale wanaotaka kurudia mtihani uliotangazwa wiki jana wajiandikishe. Hebu kwanza tusaidie kuelewa hii mitihani hii ya katikati ni ipi, alafu ina umuhimu gani kwa wanafunzi?
Kwa mara ya kwanza na washikadau wengi wamesema mwanafunzi kuanguka katika mtihani wa mwisho haipasi kuwa ndio mwisho wake ikiwa hajafaulu vyema. Kwa hivyo venye nilisikia jambo la mtihani wa katikati venye unaita nilifurahi sana kwa sababu tunapatia nafasi wale labda walikuwa na shida tofauti ama walikuwa na vitu zingine zilizowafanya wasifanye vyema. Lakini kizungia mtihani wa katikati ni ule mtihani unaangalia kuna mtu labda alikuwa afanya mtihani na kwa sababu fulani labda kupata, kuna wenye walikuwa wamengojeka. Unajua inabidi hiyo mtoto agoje mwaka mzima aende akafanya mtihani na wale wengine. Kuna mwingine labda alikuwa mgonjwa na akaenda akafanya mtihani. Kuna wengine wasichana labda sasa walikuwa wamejifungua kwa hospitali labda wangekaa hivi. Kwa hivyo wanapatiwa nafasi nyingine hapo katikati ya mwaka wapate kukalia tu a real exam kama KCSE ile nyingine. Ni venye haupasi kukojea mpaka mwisho wa mwaka. Kwa hivyo hii na venye ukisoma venye Dr. Jegere na CS Mingosu walisema ni kwamba yeyote ambaye akupata kufanya mtihani hata ikiwa alifanya after KCSE from 1984 onwards, akona jukumu na akona nafasi ya kujiandikisha hii mtihani ya katikati na itaendelea, si ati ni mwaka hata I think next year itakuwa mpaka 844 iende ikafifie. Lakini pia ukiangalia sababu ya hii ya sahasa tunaendelea hii mfumo wa elimu wa 844 unaendelea kuisha. Inamaanisha tusipopatia watu nafasi ya kukalia mtihani itafika wakati hiyo mtihani haiko tena. Na ni vyema kupatia mtu nafasi ili apate kuridhika, apate kutimiza isile goals ambazo ameweka kwa maisha. Kwa hivyo chenye tuna expect na venye nimesikia ni kwanza mwenye anataka kuna nafasi sasa kwenda kujiandikisha. Lakini ukiangalia pia kulikuwa na nafasi. Kuna wanafunzi walikuwa labda hajafanya biology vizuri, kulikuwa na hizo nafasi zilikuwa zikiendelea. Walikuwa kienda kana register na wakati wa KCSE ikifika wanaenda wanakaa hizo exams. Kwa hivyo kulikuwa na nafasi, lakini haikuwa kama imetangazwa. Sidhani kama watu wengi walikuwa wakijua kuna nafasi unaweza kubridge. Kwa kitu tu bridging. But unajiandikisha na NEC mwisho wa mwaka, mtihani zingine zikifanyika, pepa yako ikifika unaenda unafanya, unapata matokeo ya hiyo pepa. Kwa hivyo na maana unaweza kuitumia badala na ile grading ukienda kupatiana mali una sote mbili. Na ilikuwa ikikubalikana. Kwa hivyo ni nafasi jema hasa, na ningehimiza wananchi wenye wanataka kuchukua hii nafasi waende wachukue, wapate kufaidika. Ile sijajua na ile labda tutakuwa tukisikiliza na nimesikiliza ni kwamba kama ilikuwa na D+ na nifanye hii mtihani nipate kama nita I'll be admitted to university the same way na ule mwingine amepata I think hiyo labda hiyo serikali ingetoa mwelekeo zaidi ili watu wapate kujua motisha, wajue ni nini wanaingia.
Still on that note, mwanafunzi labda hajafanya vyema katika mtihani uliopita wa 2024 na ameambiwa na nafasi ya kuweza kurudia kuboresha matokeo yake ili labda ajiunge na chuo kikuu. Wengi wanauliza, je, ni cheti gani hapa ambacho kitakubalika?
Ndio nilikuwa nimegusia mwisho ni cheti gani, lakini naona ukifanya any supplementary examination si kama sile sa university hata university kuna supplementary examination. Nifanye nilikuwa nikiona sometimes grade unaweza kupata hata upate 100 lakini unapata grade ya chini. Hii nadhani fenye itakuwa utapata ile grade unapaa kufuata. Na juu what happens wale walikuwa kirudia kidato ya 4, si walikuwa kipata grade na alafu ile grade wamepata ndio ilikuwa ikitumika ama ile cheti walikuwa kipata ndio ilikuwa ikitumika. Nadhani ndio itakuwa mwelekeo, lakini labda tutahitaji information sasa kutoka kwa ministry, lakini ningeona hiyo ndio mapendeleo ya ile cheti umepata iko umefanya vyema uendelee nayo. Kuna mwingine labda ataenda afanye na labda apate grade ya chini, yeye atachagua ile cheti atatumia kweli. Lakini tutakuwa na cheti sote mbili. Kwa sababu imeshatoka ingine nadhani pia itakuwa imeshatokezea pia.
Ametaja supplementary exams akanikumbusha supu. Ulikuwa tunaziita supu. Na vile pia amegusia mtazamaji swala la umuhimu wa kupata kile cheti cha KCSE. Akanikumbusha yule mheshimiwa MCA kule Gatuzi la Nandi ambaye alifanya mtihani huo akapata alama ya D- na akaweza kuandaa bonge la pati, na mtoto wake wa kike alipata alama C-. Kwa tunaulizana na Dora kama amepata D- na ameachilia bonge la pati. Akijapata masters na PhD itakuaje?
Tunafurahi chenye umepata. Unajua ile uwezo ulikuwa umeweka na zile matarajio. Ikiwa umefikia matarajio ulikuwa umeona nzima inazidi kitu. Furahia.
Ndio. Bila shaka. Labda tukirudi kwenye swala jingine. Idadi ya wanafunzi ambao wanajiunga na vyuo vikuu na zile taasisi za kiufundi imeongezeka. Na idadi hii inatarajiwa kuongezeka zaidi kwenye vyuo vikuu baada ya mitihani ya katikati ya mwaka. Hii ina faida gani na changamoto zipi kwa taifa letu? Tuanze na faida zake kwanza.
Nikisema hivi, education is like a funnel. If I say a funnel, unaanza mkiwa wengi pale juu na inaendelea tu ikienda chini. Na sasa ukiangalia university, sinachukua less than 20. Saisi wenye umefusu ni kama 26%. Inamaanisha 74% of them hawajafusu kwenda university. Kwa hivyo ni ile plan. Ukiangalia mwenye walijoin form 1 grade 1 saisi na wenye wamefanya mtihani utakuta kuna almost 300,000 lakini wamepotelea tu mahali. Hiyo ni ya kwanza. Ya pili nikitaka kuongelea faida ni kwamba as a nation if you have to develop lazima ukue you be the human capital. Na ni vizuri watu wafusu vyema, waende shule, wapate kupata ile elimu wanayohitaji ili kujidumu maishani, lakini pia kusaidia taifa kukua. Kwa hivyo hiyo inamaanisha we start building a human capital. Na si bora kwa Kenya. If you produce the human capital, inamaanisha pia hata watu wanaweza kwenda nchi zingine mahali kwingine kwenda kufanya kazi. Lakini changamoto ziko. Kwanza ningekusia ya funding. Na sasa tumeona ile mwaka imepita na venye serikali ilikuwa imeingia ilileta ile equity based financing. Na hiyo iko na maana ya kwamba ukiwa na wanafunzi wengi wanafusu kwenda chuo kikuu na chuo cha ufundi zenye serikali inajaribu kupatiana fedha, inamaanisha lazima ijikakamue iweke pesa mingi.
Ndio. Ili
university siache kuwa na mashida, lakini wanafunzi pia waendelee na masomo yao bila hisi tatizo tumesiona. Ile ingine nikisema hasa ni ukiangalia universities venye wanafanya kabla placement ya university by COOPs, the Kenya University College and Placement. So huwa nafanya they declare the vacancies zenye ziko. Sijui kama zile vacancies universities ziko nazo sitaweza kuchukua wanafunzi wote. Na hiyo ni swali tunapaswa kuangalia tukifika wakati. Kana kwamba tutakuwa na nafasi 250,000 sawa wanafunzi. Na ukiangalia ile serikali ilipita ilikuwa njuu ya hiyo tatizo, ilikuwa imefungua hata kuplace wanafunzi katika private universities on sponsor na serikali, ili kuhakikisha at least our public universities are not overstretched, lakini pia kuhakikisha pia the private universities wako na wanafunzi wa kufanya nini, wa kuendelea nayo. Kwa hivyo hiyo tunaendelea kutazama tuone nini inaendelea, lakini ya muhimu Rashid ni ya muhimu ni the world is developing so fast, na zile courses wanafunzi wanachukua tunapasa sasa kuganisha ni nini market inahitaji saa hizi na mbele. Tukirudi katika hii nyanja ya filamu, unakumbuka Kodak wako kwa market kwa sababu kuangalia mbele kama saa hizi kama inchi hata wanafunzi kuwa wamengaidiwa vizuri, wapate kujua nikichagua hii baadaye itakuwa ya muhimu, si kuchukua kitu na lakini within kabla umalize hata jobs meanza kufifia. Inaanza kujiuliza sasa nitaingia wapi. So kuna hii mkakati na watu wanaongelea saa hizi tunasema future of work. It's where the nations is, where the world is heading, where the nations are heading. Na hii ni sisi changamoto kwa mwanafunzi peke yake, pia ni changamoto kwa universities na kwa colleges zenye tuko nazo. Sianze kufikiria wanaweza kuanza kujua zile jobs zitakuwa zikihitajika, na waanze kuhimiza wanafunzi wakichagua wachague hizo courses. Kwa hiyo ndio tutajenga uchumi. Ili changamoto nyingine naweza kuona na sasa kwa wanafunzi ni placement ya university ninakuwa na subject combinations. Rashid, naweza kupata A- na unataka kuwa daktari lakini biology umea D+ na uko na A-. So unaangalia hii subject combination, sasa unataka kuwa daktari lakini simeanza kuwa. Ndio tunasema wanafunzi pia kabla wanjaanza wakati wa kuselect wanapaswa kukaa chini wajiangalie ni pipi walikuwa wakitaka kuwa, ni nini inawezekana na ni ipi itakuwa na faida katika maisha yao. Kwa hivyo balancing, na tumeona wengi wakikosea sana cause labda wajapatiwa mwelekeo vyema. Unajua mara mingi tunaona mtu akipata tunasema huyu ni engineer au ni daktari. Cause kuna zile vitu unajua hata ukisikia jina unasikia tu ni jema. Lakini ikiwa niko na na naona kipaji changu ni kuwa mwalimu, hakuna ubaya. Na wazazi na wale na washikadau wengine waelewe hivyo, hakuna ubaya. Naweza kwenda nichukue pia niende nasema na kuwa mwalimu. Cause ndio ile nataka. Na ndio kwanza mfumo wa CBC unajaribu sasa kutoa hii kwa kufocus na academic, lakini pia sile vitu zingine za mwanafunzi kama abilities, kama sile talents ako nazo, at their potential, so that unacombine ile nyanja ya elimu na pia sile vitu zingine za mwanafunzi.
Bila shaka mtazamaji, 35 dakika zimekwisha tumika baada ya saa 2. Asante sana kwa kuichagua runinga na enzi na asubuhi ya leo, na vile vile pia kulichagua Zinga kupitia KBC Radio Taifa Sauti ya Mkenya. Tuko kwenye sehemu yetu ya 4 ya kipindi hiki ikiwa ni gumzo lililopevuka, na hii leo kwenye gumzo lililopevuka mtazamaji ya masuala ya elimu. Je, baada ya matokeo ya mtihani wa KCSE nini kinachofuata? Na kama nilivyokuambia studioni niko naye Daktari Morris Mutisia ambaye ni mkurugenzi wa utafiti hususan katika swala la elimu kwenye wakfu wa Zizi Africa. Labda nikirudi kwako daktari, kwa mwaka mmoja sasa tekeleza mfumo wa ugavi wa fedha, yani university funding model katika vyuo vikuu. Na kumekuwa na lalama kutoka baadhi ya vyuo vikuu na vile vile pia wanafunzi, huku serikali ikisisitiza na kushikilia kwamba mfumo huu ni bora zaidi. Je, labda tatizo lipo wapi daktari?
Yeah, I don't know equity kwa Kiswahili tunaita nini? The equity based financing. Lakini umesema ni mfumo wa ugavi wa or the need of the child. Equity-based financing is a very good way of doing things. Kwa mwenye ako nayo anapata kidogo. Juu anaweza. Lakini ida ni ile unapasa kuwa na information enough ili kwa umeweka kila mwanafunzi nyumba mahali inahitajika. Na naona ule tatizo unakuta mwanafunzi anatoka katika yama nyumba kuna shia na kufadhiliwa vyema, lakini hapati hiyo. Labda ndio napata ile I think hiyo kwanza niangalie tuhakikishe ni sasa na inaweza kuweka kila mwanafunzi pasa. Important. Na ni vyema mwanafunzi mwenye anahitaji badala ya kukosa kwenda shule. Ndio hiyo the origin of it, the idea was, lakini venye wekwa ni ile universities. Na nimesikia wakisema hii imetendeka, lakini serikali ija releases financing kwenda kwa universities sipate kuendelea. I think hapo hiyo connection inapaswa kuwa ya mwisho yenye ningesema na nimesikiliza wadau wengi wakikuzia ya kwamba na hasa hata universities zingine zikiguzia sikisema ikiwa labda unahitaji kupata, lakini ukiangalia colleges zinafanya hivyo 70% na maisha kufanya medicine unapata pesa mingi kuliko labda ni 200,000. Hiyo inatendeka, lakini ile ningetaka kusisitiza ni kwa tuko nayo, tuhakikishe kila mwanafunzi information ku place na mwanafunzi. Ya pili ni sikiliza sauti za wadau kupata hiyo feedback na hivi ni aliye sina liga ile kuna. Then the last ni chance, takes time. Kulingana nile basi ndi inatolewa I think 15,000 a year or something like that. Now it takes time to start these things. Pia communication, watu wapate kuelewa vyema like hata wanafunzi wameelewa vyema.
Kwa hiyo ni kumaanisha kwamba
could have been there, but public ni watu wangapi wanafikiwa? Una invite watu hapa wakuje, unapata watu kadhaa wanakuja, lakini wale wanahitaji usaidizi sana. Ni pipi public participation zuri kuelimisha watu nini hasa inamaanisha nini, ili mtu akijiandaa. Iko kuna msasa alikuwa amepeleka mwanafunzi katika ile mfumo wa pita wa finance na hii nyingine na information, mimi kupeleka mtoto ni hivi nahitaji na hii, unaambiwa hapana, vitu zimechange na labda ana hiyo information. Kwa hivyo ni vizuri ku communicate sana. Lakini ningetaka kuhusia kitu kingine. Na universities, they're supposed to be generating their own resources in one way or the other.
Ndio.
They are supposed to wanafanya utafiti, wanaandika proposals, serikali pia ina fund proposals. So university inapaswa kutafuta jinsi pia ya kujikimu. Lakini pia ya muhimu venye universities na link na industries. Kwa sababu ndio research inafanyika, hapo ndio unapata kuna industries zinahitaji wanafunzi wako na hii wako na inasema naweza kuweka pesa ili ya wanafunzi wapaswe. Na ukiangalia nchi nyingi kama Germany wanafanya hivyo. The industry, the linkages. Ni pipi tunaweza kusoma tuangalie, hata ikiwa sina pesa na mimi niko na ile kitu nahitaji, kuna zile opportunities scholarships hata kutoka industries. Unaona mwanafunzi amefanya vyema, ametoka kwa Northeastern, unajua hako na hiyo talanta ya kuwa engineer, ni pipi industry inaweza kuchukua msichana umpeke shuleni na baadaye umpatie kazi. Kwa hivyo kuna nafasi tofauti zenye tunapaswa kuangalia ili tuweze kuhakikisha wanafunzi wanafaidika. Lakini mfumo si baya, ni venye tunajaribu ile information tuko nayo kuitumia ili tuhakikishe kila mwanafunzi anapaswa kufaidika venye anaweza.
Alright, labda tukiendelea mbele kabla kurudi upande wa pili wa studio tusikilize maoni ya msikilizaji. Matatizo katika sekta ya elimu, daktari, ni mengi sana. Labda ni mambo gani washikadau au wadau wanafaa kuangazia zaidi ili kuhakikisha tuna ubora wa elimu baada ya mitihani ya kidato cha 4?
Nikisema ya kwanza nile nimeguzia kuhakikisha we have industry linkages ili tuboreshe hali ya elimu. Na hiyo nikiongezea ni kwamba nimeenda nchi zingine, nimeenda country zingine na nimesomea pia nje. Unaenda unafika unakuta yule mtu anakufunza katika class is not a lecturer wa university, lakini hapa course, lakini ni mtu kutoka kwa industry amekuja. Anakuja kufunza hapo juu. Tukianza kulinganisha what the market needs na what the universities are training, then hiyo itakuwa jema. Ile kuhakikisha the human resources that you have, and ningesema labda motivation ya lecturers. Tumeona lecturers mara mingi wanaenda strikes. kwa sababu labda ile collective bargaining zenye ulikuwa nazo haijakuwa. Kwa hivyo ni kuhakikisha kuna enough resources within, and particularly the human resources wenye pia wamehitimu kufunza ili tupate training particularly. Ya tatu ni kuhakikisha universities iko na enough resources, because you can't train with a very traditional methods. Na the world is moving very fast. Ni pipi hizi institutions of higher learning zimeweza kuwa na kuhakikisha ile mfumo wako nayo katika shule au wanafunzi wanapata it meets international standards. I'm not saying they don't meet, but ukiangalia most of the time kuna a lot of theory. Hakuna leakage is a market. Sometimes ukienda ukiangalia zile equipment zinatumiwa ni zile za kitambo, lakini vitu zimemove. So we are talking about electrical vehicles. If you are doing mechanical and electrical engineering and all that, can we go to Nairobi University and say if someone is interested in motor engineering, they have those things? It's unlikely utasipata. But the world is moving. Kwa hivyo ni kuhakikisha universities of excellence where we can be able to generate the human capital yenye tunahitaji katika hiyo skill. And I think hiyo imekuwa na changamoto sana sasa universities zetu. I think financing haijakuwa ile ya kiasi kwamba wanaweza kuwa na resources zenye wanahitaji. Lakini I don't want to be so them. I think they are trying.
Kutumia sasa, labda tu nitoe pili. Naona leo mwelekezi wangu Mato Njeru, shabiki wa Manchester marathon, kama nuzi juu ya masuala kadha wa kadha, ngumzia la elimu.
Rashid Mwamkondo, msikilizaji, na kupatia nafasi nitapokea simu chache, jina lako tu na kwa ufupi zaidi kupitia 01766 au 07451111. Radio Taifa KBC. Okay, 0700176699. Radio TBC.
Ujambo Dora Manya.
Si jambo Omar, swali lako?
Omar Baba Saina kutoka Lagos and County. Wacha niulize hawa changanuzi kwa hasira. Je, ningependa kujua kwa nini hizi mativet university hawana haja na talenta, yaani kuboresha pesa zao, yaani mahitaji ya shule, kwa sababu ukiona kama Amerika wanakuja kuchukua zile talanta. Inakatika Dora Manya, kwa sababu kuna kijana West Pokot, mchezaji mzuri, alikuwa na D+ na imebidi sasa arudie aingie kwa hiyo staff, apoteze ile talanta alikuwa nayo juu ya mpira.
Asante sana Omar, tumekuelewa Radio Taifa KBC.
Hello KBC.
Naam.
Nimefika sehemu ya Kisii.
Naam.
Nataka kuuliza swali, wacha hata niwasalimie Donya na Rashid na mgeni. Habari ya asubuhi.
Salama sana, swali lako?
Salama. Wa elimu aliongea juu ya kufanya mtihani wa kidato cha 4 mwezi wa 7, na rais ameunga mkono. Itakuwa ukweli ama ni maoni? Kwa sababu naona wanafunzi wengine wengi wamerudia shule, wameanza kujiprepare hata kwangu shule yangu ya Kongonda.
Asante. Radio Taifa KBC.
Jambo KBC, majina ni Omkata Oscar.
Yes.
Swali nalo moja ni iwapo kila mmoja anapata alama ya A na kila mtu anataka akuwe daktari ama ile kazi ambazo zinapewa kwa shuleni, basi nani atahudumia mwingine katika labda sekta ya uchukuzi, kunda samani, kunda mambo ya elektroniki? Kupata DC kwa mtihani kulingana mimi, ila yafaa jamii ibalanziwe. Washangazi watakuja zaidi.
Asante. Hoja nzuri. Swali moja, alafu tuende upande wa 0732745111. Radio Taifa.
Hello.
Hapo Wadamanya.
Si jambo, jina lako na swali lako ndugu yangu?
Mimi naitwa Samson Olengema kutoka Transmara.
Naam.
Nasema hiyo exam ambayo imesemekana irudiwe ni vyema. Watoto sasa ambayo walianguka na watakuwa na sehemu ingia, lakini kama warudie labda saa ingine wapate manufaa waende mbele. So ni nzuri.
Asante sana. Hoja za mtihani wa mwezi wa 7 Rashid, hata katika maswali mtandao wa Facebook swali hilo limeulizwa sana na wengi wanataka ufafanuzi, na pia kuna mmoja anaitwa Beatrice na Mali anauliza huyo daktari, nini usababisha mtu jamani, umetoka kidogo katika mada, lakini wengi wanauliza sana kuhusiana huo mtihani na vile wataweza kujisajili katika ule mtihani. Kwako Rashid.
Alright, mtazamaji, asanteni sana. Kuna mtu ameuliza swali la daktari. Usi daktari wa kutibu ama wa kudunga sindano, mtazamaji. Na Daktari Morris, labda umenakili baadhi ya maswali ambayo umeulizwa, naomba uweze kuyajibu. Una dakika kama 6 tu kuweza kuyajibu, tumalize kipindi.
Sawa. Asante sana Dora, asante sana Rashid. Ningekusia kwanza hii swali la mtihani wa katikati. Na kuna kozani kutoka huko, I think msikilizaji kutoka Kisii amesema kama ni ukweli ama ni uongo. I think serikali imeweka mikakati na imesema, siongelee serikali, lakini venye nimesikia ni kwamba hii itatendeka na NEC yenye huwa inahakikisha hii mtihani inafanyika, imeweka mikakati sahihi. Kwa hivyo ningemwambia hii itatendeka, labda ikiwa kuna maoni anaweza kutafuta venye inaweza kufikia waziri ama inaweza kufikia NEC kupitia kwa sub county yake. Kuna watu huko chini, akitoa maoni itapaswa kuja juu. Kwa hivyo hakuna haja ya kuwa na wasiwasi. Imetangazwa, rais amehakikisha, CS amehakikisha, na wenye wana nafasi ya kufanya hivyo, Dr. Jegere na timu ya Kenya National Examination Council wamehakikisha itafanyika. Kuna mwingine ameuliza, I think alikuwa akikomenda akisema ni initiative nzuri, na venye nilikuwa nimesema ni initiative nzuri sana. Yule mwanafunzi akupata kufanya exam ama alianguka na alikuwa anaona angepata maxi, hivyo hakuna nafasi ya kwenda kurekebisha hiyo. Lakini nikisema hivi kwamba najua serikali imesema itaissue directions when wanafunzi watajiregister, na walifanya pilot I think last year katika county headquarters, ilifanyika. Kwa hivyo inamaanisha wako na information venye itakuwa imekuwa. Labda msikilizaji ni kwanza kuendelea kufuatilia ili hizi hiyo mipangilio ikishiwa venye wanafunzi wanapata kujiregister ili wapate kuchukua nafasi. Lakini ningesema pia hakuna mtu ataamka hivi mtihani isemekane ni hapo katikati ya mwaka akose ile revision lazima itakuwa. Hiyo labda serikali haitapatiana venye itakuwa. Labda itakuwa imesema mtihani register hivi na senda yako ya kufanya mtihani itakuwa hapa hivi, ukienda ukijifikisha hapo utakuta mtihani imeletwa. Kwa hivyo inamaanisha hapo katikati kuna ile preparations. I think hiyo asa itachoma mwanafunzi na mwenye anataka kufanya mtihani. Ni vigumu labda na tutaona watu hapa hivi wataanza kutoka. Kuna shule zitajitoshea, kuna private sector itajitoshea, sema kwa nataka kufanya mtihani wa katikati, tuko na hizi classes, kujeni mfanye tuwasaidie kurevise na hizo vitu zingine. Utaona hizo zikitokezea, kuna nafasi. Lakini pia kuna ile jukumu mwanafunzi kusema mimi nilikuwa na hizo material zote, nitasomea nyumbani ama itakuwa na private tuition. Kwa hivyo mikakati ya venye mtu kujiprepare kwenda kufanya hiyo mtihani, labda serikali itaingilia sana. Na sio nikiingilia sana. Naona wafadhili na watu wengine hapa nje labda watajitokezea kuangalia hivyo. Lakini sasa ni ile mwanafunzi mwenye anataka kwenda kufanya mtihani, kwenda kuchukua nafasi na kutafuta ni vipi atakuwa amejipanga vizuri kufanya hiyo mtihani. Kuna swali ya TVET na talents kutoka Umal ameulizia, na ni swali jema, hasa ukiangalia mfumo wa 844 mara mingi hujazingatia zile talents za mtoto ama za mwanafunzi. Ilikuwa tu academic part of it. Ukifanya vyema katika na uko na talent, pia kuna wenye wanafanya vyema na uko na talent, lakini unakuta hiyo talent it's not contributing anywhere. Ningesema sasa turudie kuangalia aspirations za CBC, hii competence based curriculum and education ni kwamba mwanafunzi sasa atakuwa na nafasi ya kuangalia ni vipi anafanya katika masomo yake, lakini pia zile talanta, abilities that they have potential, ili uhakikishe you are balancing both of them. Kwa hivyo hiyo Oman mfumo wa CBC unajaribu kuaddress hiyo issue, because ilionekana na wadau wengi. Kwanza wanafunzi wengi wanapotea, talanta zao situmiki sana, zinaenda kupotea, ila hali wangekuwa wamefaulu katika maisha katika hiyo talanta. Kwa hivyo CBC iko na kitu moja tumejaribu kufanya kama shirika la Azizi Afrika ni kufanya kazi na serikali, sasa junior secondary school na senior secondary school directorates, ili tuangalie ni vipi career guidance zimeongezeka katika mashule. Hizo career guide unapaswa kuwa na ile tool ya kudiscriminate mwanafunzi kulingana na uwezo wake. Na hiyo inaendelea. I think kuna wakati tafika serikali wa issue hizo statement, lakini kwa sasa tuko na tools kama moja tunaita Riase, yenye naangalia nyanja 7 za mwanafunzi, na ukipata score iko hapo hivi na maanisha wewe ni mzuri kwa sports ama wewe ni mzuri kwa social science kwa STEM. Kwa hivyo itasaidia pia kuangalia wanafunzi wakianza kwenda katika senior secondary school wameanza kuchukua zile pathway yenye naligana na talanta yake na pia na masomo yake. Kwa hivyo CBC itajaribu kuaddress hiyo. Nikisema ya mwisho ile imetoka na katika Oscar katika moja ni kwanza na nimesema si lazima ukipata uende kufanya medicine. Unaweza kupata na uende kufanya kitu kingine tofauti. Lakini the economy the way it is, lazima ukuwe na watu katika different spaces. Ni pipi kwanza hata wenye universities pia wako na zile nafasi watu wenye the 1600 wanda kafanya engineering, medicine, all those things. Lakini kumbuka pia kuna watu wengi hapa chini pia wamepata grades zingine wenye watakuwa wakienda katika hizo fields za kiufundi. Na hizo fields za kiufundi ndizo mara mingi zinapatiana the hands-on. Unaona ile useremara, ile plumbing, zile vitu zinahitajika kila siku na mwanafunzi na jamii. Na sasa tukilinganisha kuna mazungumzo tuja kupata kuwa nayo. Tukisema universities, what is the purpose of universities? You know, universities the way zenye ziko, they're supposed to be recreating the market. They're supposed to be looking what is needed in the market, na sinaendelea kwa hivyo. Ili watu wengi wako hapa chini wenye wamefanya hizi other training wanaenda kufita hapo hivyo. Lakini shida yenye tuko na mtu anafanya university anakuja kubit the same job na mwenye amefanya diploma. Na hiyo ni mazungumzo tunapaswa kuwa nayo kama iji. Tupate kujua kama university they are playing their role and their TVETs and these other vocational they are playing their role, so that we don't have that tension, different qualifications.
Daktari, masuala ya elimu hatuwezi kuyamaliza na saa 1, saa 2, saa 3 wala masaa 24. Ni mapana na tutazidi kuyajadili kadiri tunapopata muda, lakini kwa sasa zikiwa zimesalia dakika 3 tupate taarifa ya habari. Labda tu ni kushukuru tu kwa kutenga muda wako kuja kusema nami, labda kwa sekunde 30 tu ujumbe wako tunapoanza mwaka huu 2025 katika sekta ya elimu.
Asante sana. Kwanza kuna tumesema form 1 kuna tunaendelea kuwa na hii mfumo wa mwisho wa 844 unaendelea kushuka. Hivyo nikisisitiza wenye wanapata grades za kutosha ama wao kufanya mtihani wa KCSE na wanaona wako na nafasi waende wajiandikishe, wamepatiwa nafasi na serikali. Ya pili ni kusema turudi tusungumze vyema tupate kujua sile mipangilio imewekwa sasa ya junior secondary school na senior secondary school. This is the time. Next year now we'll be talking about transition to senior secondary school, a new transition ya tuja kuwa nayo. Kwa hivyo ni kwanza kusungumza na kuhakikisha zile vitu zinapaswa kutendeka saa hizi zimetendeka. Otherwise tukitafika mahali tukuwe na tension mingi sana na wasiwasi wengi wa sasa. Communication kwa wasasi ili wapate kujua watoto wao kimaliza junior secondary school ni ipi itatendeka ili wapate kujiunga na senior secondary school.
Asante sana Daktari Morris Motisia, mkurugenzi wa utafiti katika wakfu wa Aziz Africa. Mtazamaji, ikiwa zimesalia dakika 2 iweze kutimia saa 3 kamili, niruhusu nifunganye virago vyangu kutoka studio ya kijani kibichi almaarufu studio. Ni vile tu hawapiga picha wangu hapa, lakini wangekuonyesha mandhari nzuri nzuri inayopendeza ya hii studio. Kuna kijibaridi hapa, unaweza ukalala vizuri na vile vile pia ukaweza kufanya mambo mengi zaidi. Asanteni sana kwa wale nyote ambao mmeweza kufanikisha kipindi hiki. Shukran sana. Hapa ndani ya studio tuko 4, mimi na mgeni wangu na wapiga picha wangu wawili. Kibeti ule wa kuchora vibonzo na vikaragosi, mtazamaji, katuni na upande wa pili vile vile pia wamekuwa wengi tu sana. Asanteni sana waelekezi wangu upande wa runinga wa mitambo nyote, shukran sana kwa kazi yenu mujarab. Kama wanawaambia mtazamaji, mimi kazi yangu ni kuuza sura tu, lakini kazi nyingi inafanyika na watu ambao hawaoni mtazamaji. Asante sana Dennis Chisaka, asante vile vile pia Nancy Kemunto. Mtazamaji, hawa ndo walikuwa watayarishwe kipindi hiki. Labda tu kabla sijatoka ndani ya studio nikwambie, kuanzia saa 6 hii leo ile kamati ya usaili ama ya uteuzi ya bunge ikiongozwa na spika wa bunge la kitaifa Moses Masika Wetangula itakuwa na wapiga msasa mawaziri watatu walioteuliwa kuhuduma katika baraza la mawaziri. Wa kwanza saa 6 mchana Mheshimiwa Mutahi Kagwe ambaye aliteuliwa katika wizara ya kilimo na vile vile pia masuala ya mifugo mtazamaji. Alafu itakapotimia saa 9 itakuwa ni waziri William Kabogo, waziri wa ICT na Digital Economy. Mimi mawaziri hawa wanaoita mawaziri wa KBC. Na vile vile pia saa 11 jioni itakuwa ni zamu yake aliyekuwa gavana wa gatuzi la Nakuru Lee Kinyanjui ambaye amechaguliwa kama waziri wa viwanda, biashara na vyama vidogo vidogo mtazamaji. Vile vile pia kukujuza tu ni kwamba kesho tarehe 15 katika ukumbi wa draw ya itafanyika, na miongoni mwa wale watakao conduct draw ile ni aliyekuwa mwamba wa timu ya taifa na makamu wa rais wa FKF Mark Donald Mariga. Kumbuka haya yote utakuwa unayapata KBC1 TV. Mimi naitwa Rashid Momkondo Dora Manya. Twende kazi tupate taarifa ya habari ya saa 3.
Mimi shida zangu zote hapa ndani ya hii nyumba chanzo chake ni nani? Si ni wewe?
Utachekwa. Yote hayo nayajua.
Yaani nyanya sikujua unampenda Karembo kiasi hicho. Ingekuwa ni mimi ungenidekeza. Mwenda. Haifai kuonekana mkizunguka ovyo ovyo hapa kisiwani mpaka tujue kesi isha vipi.
Karembo wangu. Karembo, wewe ni wangu. Na sina mpenzi mwingine usipokuwa wewe.
Tamu.
Your blood contains wildlands.
Friday night again. Greetings in the name of the Most High Jah Rastafari. My good name is Marley Moses, the positive warrior, alongside.
Yes, sir, DJ D-Rage, the baddest. Each and every Wednesday from 10 p.m. on KBC Channel 1 TV.
Tunakuletea the biggest reggae party in 254 in a yard extra. Extra niceness of reggae music.
Extra dose of entertainment.
When the thing is nice, we
have to do it twice.
I'll punish myself for what I have done. I'm wrong. You won't be able to do anything. You won't be happy without me. Do you know that?
It takes so much time. It is not easy to get a girlfriend. Be patient. Can you do that?
One thing in my head. In this world, nothing can be taken for granted. Age shouldn't be the factor that restrains my mindset.
Mtazamaji, tumekuandalia taarifa zinazogonga vichwa vya vyombo vya habari kutoka hapa jijini Nairobi na pia mashinani.
Wanahabari zaidi ya ubora wao wako ange kukuletea habari pindi zinapochipuka kutoka pembe zote za Kenya.
Kwenye kipindi cha Tamrini tunakuletea mazungumzo ya moja kwa moja kufafanua na kuangazia masuala yanayokuhusu wewe mtazamaji.
Kumbuka, taarifa yenye thamani daima kupokewa kwa amani.
Hivyo basi usikose kuungana nasi kila siku ya wiki.
Tukupakulie na tukutaarifu taarifa yenye mnato kwenye runinga unayoienzi. Kwenye kurunzi mashinani,
Sisi DC.
Welcome back. This is Good Morning Kenya. Thank you for staying with us. My name is Vivian Dagwa, and now we get into Matters Health. And today on Health Matters, we will be talking about solving hearing disability using technology. That is what we will be looking at. And joining me for this conversation is one J.K. Shah. He is the director, Express Nova Limited. Thank you so much for joining us. And also on my immediate right, I have Gladys Achieng. Gladys Achieng is a beneficiary of what technology is doing in changing, hearing impairment in this country. And just to put statistics out there, it shows that in Kenya, in every 1,000 children, 14 have moderate to severe, or severe rather, hearing loss. In every 100 children, 14 of them have hearing loss. So it is only right for us to have this conversation and get to see ways in which technology has come forth in helping to solve this issue that is the hearing disability. So welcome to the program. It's a pleasure to have the both of you here. If I may just maybe begin with you, Jay. Let's talk about some types of hearing losses, just to get to understand it before now we get into how technology is helping out.
Sure. So thank you so much once again, Vivian. Hearing loss it's a disability, and we have several levels of hearing loss. So you can actually start with just a slight, basically a small hearing disability, meaning that you're not able to just hear what is happening on the TV or a conversation with a friend. So that's basically slight. Then we have mild hearing loss, we have moderate hearing loss, we have moderate to severe, then severe to profound. Now profound is the last part. Basically that's someone who is unable to hear completely. And that is where we have brought, with our manufacturers, we're here and Express Nova, we've brought a technology that can allow someone to hear through bone conduction. And this is a globally patented technology from India. And it is actually proven to help people who've had a disability. The bone conduction works from 80 dB and below, basically, and then you have hearing aids which go above that. So people who are severe to profound will have different kinds of hearing aids behind the ear. We have different pods, and these are the things which we can discuss on the ability that we have in our range.
Okay. Now, Gladys is here with us, and Gladys is a beneficiary. So, Gladys, if you can just tell us a bit about yourself, and maybe when you got the hearing, not the hearing aid, but the hearing condition. Just tell us a bit about your journey and your story.
It's okay. Gladys Achieng, a student at Kenyatta University. So I got the hearing loss when I was 12 years old. Yeah, I was kind of sick for about 6 months, 7 months continuously. Then just woke up one day and found I can't hear. Yeah, so I was studying in a normal school, and it really took me hard to believe that I have a disability. I studied in the normal school for about 1 year until I saw my performance was not that good. So people told my mom that I should be taken to a deaf school, which it really took me a long journey for me to accept that I'm going to a deaf school. Yeah, so I went to a deaf school when I was in class 7. Yeah, from there I joined. Then I started learning sign language. But being that I was being talked to, it took me so easy when I was in that school to accept myself and start learning sign language. It took me around 2 months to be able to communicate basic sign language. Yeah, so from there I studied in deaf school from primary in class 7 up to high school and now in university.
Yeah. So your hearing loss came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
You just woke up one day and you couldn't hear from both ears or one ear?
Both ears. But one ear, the right ear is better than the left ear. Yeah.
Okay.
But it started like my ears was kind of paining, like every day. Yeah. So just woke up one day and found can't hear.
So maybe if you can just talk about maybe some of the causes of hearing loss, you know, or hearing impairment, because as she says, she lived for 12 years without having any issues with her ears, and then all of a sudden, you know, she just couldn't hear. Maybe she started feeling pain and then just couldn't hear. So probably if you can just talk to us about maybe some causes of that may lead to hearing impairment.
So basically hearing impairment, it comes from obviously loud sounds. Our society has always been, in Kenya especially, we've got the matatus, good loud music, this, that. It's entertaining when you're young. So we actually cannot pinpoint exactly what the problem, how it happened. But what we do is actually, once you have the audiogram, which is a very important step in hearing, every single person who has a hearing disability must get an audiogram done, because then you're able to assist them in the kind of devices that would fit them correctly. But in terms of diseases, what causes it is a lot of loud music, constant hearing of music. Before, in the past, you could imagine people even in the rallies, people in stadiums. So there's access, and then busy markets, like for example, people shouting this, that, everything. So these are things which are, it can't be proven, but there is medical science behind it. In terms, and you've got to understand your ear. Your ear has a cochlea. Cochlea has strands within it. Those strands actually fail. So and they're the ones that send the message to the brain for a normal person. So when a person goes to the deaf side or to the basically unimpaired side, they're basically their strands which are built in the cochlea have failed. So basically what we did was we took the bone, which was a technology that has been there within the US Army and the British Navy. They used to communicate, and combined it to make a patented technology for hearing through the bone, which is something. So now, as you can see, she actually can hear from her bone. She actually has not been able to hear from the ears. The beauty of bone conduction, like I said, there are limits to it, but we have the solution that go above it. And the most important thing is we brought it to Kenya, being Kenyan ourselves, we brought it to make sure that we benefit our people at first. Because remember something, Kenya being the first, this is launched in India. It is an Indian product, and it's doing very well there because it's really benefited. The government there actually subsidized the hearing aids by 50% because it was an Indian technology. We pray and hope that we can work with this government as well to really assist the people that are in our country to be able to work. Today, I'm really pleased that we were able to assist someone from KBC who has been deaf since he's been working here in 1 year. And today, with your assistance, we'll be able to actually prove to the world that he'll be able to hear and work like a normal person. That is the beauty of hearing, this disability. We've brought back affordability into a disability that was thought to be so expensive, because people will just say, because it costs too much money, they'll be like, no, I just better not do this. So there are children who suffer from this. So the effects of this are more importantly, when we are going through tough times, mental health can really affect you. Today, if you don't solve your hearing problem, it can give you dementia. So these are problems that will affect you as you grow older. So the earlier you solve it, the better it is, and you even give your time, your body, because our body is natural. It will get time to heal. when you are using an assistive device like hearing aid.
Yeah. Now, Gladys, maybe you can just talk to us about how you feel your life changed. You know, after you turned you turned 12 years, and then now you couldn't hear. Just talk to us about how your life changed after that. I know you mentioned that you went to a deaf school now, you know, and you were used to going to, you know, normal schooling with people who don't have any kind of inability. So that's changed. What else changed for you?
Okay, when I got the disability, a lot really changed. But I can say like negative things came in my life, because even when I was transferred to a deaf school, my parents, the ones who were supporting me, didn't accept that I am going to a disability school. They thought like I should just remain in normal school. One day I will get better. So as I said that I was being coached in deaf school, being talked to, but it really took me hard, even in class. Sometimes I could just not concentrate because I understand nothing. So I could hide. I love doing maths, so I could hide maths book under the table. I do maths as the teacher teaches. So like with so much coaching, I think like I went ahead and get normalized to the situation. So when I was in school, I think like I could enjoy a bit, but when I go back home, I was really feeling lonely, because no one understands sign language. No one in my family has a hearing loss. So it took me so hard when I'm back at home to communicate. I could just keep quiet and just see everybody talking, until sometimes I felt like hating my mother, hating my sisters, because they don't want to communicate to me. Because when I want to write, find my younger siblings cannot understand the English, so it was kind of difficult to communicate.
Communication was difficult.
But with the time, I understood that when you have a disability and back at home, you are the one who can influence them to be able to accommodate you. So it was not me teaching them sign language. Me, I expected them to talk to me, write down. So as time goes by, my mother, during weekend, she could come and visit me. So you find every time when she come and visit, my other friends could say hi, and she was like, until she became interested to learn sign language. So it went like that way until they grabbed a bit of sign language. Until I think when I was in high school, there was no problem, because at least we could communicate basically. But so the problem came when I joined university. When I had the other hearing aid. It's a kind of small, it's put inside the ear, but it could pain my ear all the time. So I find if I wear this one, at least I can communicate with my friends in the university. It was really difficult. So when I joined first year, I was not going to class. Because we were struggling kind of to find some interpreters. So I could just stay at home and watch YouTube relating to the topic that was taught in class, so that I could see the caption. So what I did to do away with this situation, I made sure that when I enter the class, lecturers knows about my situation. But now the problem comes with interacting with my peers, because I joined when I was the only deaf in Kenyatta University. So the struggle was really a lot. I could spend most of the time alone, until one day I told a friend, can you know anyone where I can get a better hearing aid? And I think like he was God sent. Because it was in the next 1 month, he called me and told me, can you come and we test a certain hearing aid? And now I'm very happy because the hearing aid has really changed my life.
That's amazing. That's amazing to know that you're now okay. I mean, we can clearly tell because we're speaking to you just normally and you're hearing us very well. As she's put it, you know, it can really affect one's day to day, you know, having a hearing impairment whereby you can't hear, you know, no one really, you can't communicate with even the people at home, you know, as she's put it. So just to ask, does the hearing aid work for someone who has lost their hearing completely?
So like I did mention, that the audiologist plays a very big role in this whole process of getting a hearing aid. Once the audiogram is done and based on the measurements there, we can decide what best fits that particular patient. I wanted to mention to you, like she's mentioned, critical in terms of, imagine people with no ears, the communication. We have actually, and in fact today itself, we are fitting a little baby who's not probably 8 months old or a year old, who has been born with no ears. And with bone conduction, we did the test, she's able to, so we made a specific band. It's like a hair band, which sits on the baby, which will be actually allow her to hear the sounds that the mother and father are calling for the child. So, and then you can see her actually listening, because you can see the reaction from a child when she's actually listening to you. So these are the miracles and things we would really like to bring into the hearing space, not only in Kenya, in East Africa, Africa as a whole, right? We really would like to know, people to know that, number one, hearing is a disability. We at Here Today Revolution and Express Nova have brought a solution, and we here that is affordable and actually can change your life to its fullest, completely.
And you know, the hearing aid, can it be customized, or can it be tailor-made specifically to meet one's needs, you know?
Absolutely. That's what the audiogram does. The audiogram differentiates. So Gladys's audiogram and your audiogram will be two different things. So they actually, the audiogram allows you to program it and differentiate between each hearing aid for each individual.
So how does this work?
So it is a technology. It's a technology, and for the bone conduction hearing aid, our company, we here in India, is actually the brand Hear New, is a globally patented technology for the bone conduction. But we have a big range. There is something else I'd like to talk about in terms of, it's a very big thing in the world. 1 in 10 people have it in the world. It's a disease called tinnitus. Tinnitus, I don't know if you've heard of it, but tinnitus is a disease that it brings very sharp ringing into your ears. Today, I am sure that we have so many Kenyans who wake up in the morning or in the middle of the night and their ears are just ringing, sharp sounds are coming, and it's very irritating, and it's something you feel like pulling your ears out. That's how bad it can get. So depending on the severity of it, we at Express Nova have a solution. We have a whole kit which is called Teeny X, which actually allows you to do therapy on your ears through bone conduction, which is the beauty of it, so that you don't get disturbed by blocking your ears. So it's through the bone, where you actually have a service where you'll do therapy like you do yoga. So once you put in your credentials into the system, so tinnitus is measured through audiometric instead of audiogram. So audiometric devices, the figures, the frequencies are placed, it's a test that any audiologist can do. The figures are then inputted into the app of the Teeny X, and it will tell you how long you need to do therapy, on what day, or how many times a week, this, that. It's through the AI technology, which will tell you this is how long you need to do the therapy. So people who go to work, for example yourself, if you have tinnitus and you came and you are doing this presentation or you're doing your work, you'll be able to still do the therapy while working on your computer and so forth and henceforth. So it is something which is actually, we've thought about all the scenarios that how do you get, because in other solutions that are there in the world for tinnitus, so-called solutions, they actually, ours is tested, proven, and we've really done some detailed research and clinical studies on it. People have tried it and actually have improved. So what happens is tinnitus, that sharp sound is masked. It's called a masking of that sound. So the sound is masked into a beautiful, say, the sound of the beach or the wind or the waves, and you have options. You have about 10 to 12 different options of what sound is comfortable for you. So this is a very important thing that helps people with impairedness and also the disease called tinnitus. And at Express Nova and here New, we actually can provide that solution to you.
Yeah.
So it changes. What is the idea of hearing, Vivian? The idea of hearing disability is to bring back normality to the person's life. To make
really
them
important.
live the life like you and me.
Yeah.
We are watching TV. We want to learn a language. That is another advantage which we can discuss as well of our hearing aids, because we want to help the doctors. So when a person is deaf, if Gladys had had a problem with speech, she would have to go to a speech therapist. So what did we done? In her headset, today she has access to 134 languages, which she can write in that language by speaking Kiswahili. So she can speak Kiswahili and it will be translated into Italian, French, Chinese, Arabic, including scripture.
Amazing.
So that means it writes for you as well.
Yeah.
So Gladys could take that conversation and write to a friend in China and assume she's talking in Chinese. And the person will reply and she will still be able to. So this is where technology has evolved and actually brought really cool things for the younger generations, also for the elders. I mean, we have fitted patients who are 91, 92 years old and are feeling that they've got a new life in them because now they're able to hear much better.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of benefits to it.
Yeah.
Huge, huge benefits.
Yeah. So this is the first ever in Kenya, right? It's the first non-invasive.
So non-surgical bone conduction unit.
Yeah. So it's not just in Kenya, it's the first in Africa.
In the world.
But to come to Kenya, Kenya is the first beneficiary, right? So probably why Kenya? Or how did it land to Kenya?
Because our family, my uncle especially, who is very key involved in this, Jitendra Shah, he brought the idea to Kenya. He says he really wants to help and impact people. He sold it to me in terms of I really got interested in it. And we thought as a family that we really want to help people as much as we can so that people get normality. And why we chose Kenyan is because we're 44th tribe. We are Kenyans.
Yeah.
And we actually believe that help our own first before we can go out. So we've done it simultaneously. A lot of interest has come from, especially now, where we have the Lions hospitals who are really keen to take this on, to share with their people, patients and people who come, the Aga Khan hospitals. We're hoping to further. This has only been about a year old, so we actually hope to partner with so many organizations, because this is also a great CSR activity as well. We have actually, with the grace of God, been able to actually go to schools which are deaf schools, impaired schools, disability schools, and done tests for audiograms. We've done free audiograms for everyone, and we've actually got a list of about 500 students who need help for hearing. And we are out pleading to the corporate world as well, the Safaricoms, the KCBs, the banks, the big corporates who can actually assist, because this is a great CSR. And now that it's affordable, you can actually make someone hear. And imagine giving them the gift of hearing, which I hope to do today for one of the KBC employees. But it is something which is revolutionary. And the beauty of it is that, you know, you feel it's not about only making the money, it's about actually seeing that person live the normal life. Like we talk of Gladys all the time to everyone in the world that we meet, that she's a mathematics student who had keen but was unable to get the full gist of it because of a disability. Now if we could help that disability, it changes her life completely.
Yeah, and Gladys of course is here, and you know, she's already told us just how much she had to suffer really, because you know she couldn't communicate even in class, you know. But now Gladys, now that you have this hearing aid, after you got it, just how did that change for you? How did that change your life?
Okay, I got the hearing aid. You know, when I was joining Kenyatta University, we have an office for disability students. And when I was registering, I said that I'm doing maths business. And so they told me I can do mathematics because I'm deaf, because translating mathematics will be difficult. So you find most of the time we go with the interpreter, but interpreting maths until I understand.
So you used to go with an interpreter to class?
We used to go.
Okay.
Yeah, even interpreters find really hard time interpreting maths. Yeah, so most of the time I could just tell interpreter, let me just stay at home. I follow YouTube. Yeah, so when I got the hearing aid, it was really, really easy for me because I could hear anything. No concept could pass me. Yeah, so it really helped me on that. Yeah, because business, it had accounting, but I love business more than maths. So it was very easy for me to understand business than maths. So getting the hearing aid really helped me. Yeah, even communicating with my friends, because when I joined the university, I was similar to the environment where I could communicate in sign language and we understand each other. But I went to an environment where somebody can talk to you and you say, I can't hear, and in a minute that person, he's gone. Because it's like, how will I communicate with you? So even my friends are really happy. They were really happy when I got this one. I could tell them, today I can hear. Yeah, so it really changed my life. I lived a lonely life in campus in my first year and second year. But third year I could say, now I could at least socialize. Yeah.
Just from experiencing the previous aid that you were using, how different could you say this is? You know, what's different about this that you probably, the other one wasn't having you with?
Okay, the other hearing aid, it was being inserted inside the ear. So you find it had a lot of noise. And the moment it's being inserted inside the ear, when you grab those, when you hear people talking until evening, you find your ear is paining. And it had a battery. So you find like after every some days or some weeks, you change the battery. And you understand campus life, sometimes life can be difficult. Even getting money to buy the battery can be difficult. So when I got the difference is this one, you only charge it. You don't need to buy battery. And it absorbs, like it doesn't have any noise like the other one. And being that it's not being inserted inside the ear, you find like there is less noise. Yeah, and these I can connect to TV, I can connect to phone. Yeah, so you find that's the difference. Even when I'm going to read those tutorials or listen to tutorials in YouTube, it's very easy for me to understand, like before when I was using captions. Yeah.
Oh wow, that's so nice. So nice to hear that your life is now just as a normal one as everyone else who doesn't have any inability. So she mentioned that it's chargeable. So how long does it take one after charging?
So our recommended charging time is actually only 1 hour per headset. So 1 hour per day. 1 hour per day will give you 8 to 10 hours of hearing time and talk time. She did mention to you, which I hope you got, is she's able to connect it to a phone. So her hearing aid, it consists of two parts, the bone conduction. There is a watch which is used as the sound receiver. When you see us fitting the patient that we will, you'll be able to actually see the sound going through you don't see the sound, but you actually, sound will go through the watch into his brains automatically. And that is what is happening with her. But the beauty of it is that she's now able to pair again with Bluetooth technology. Usually you can only pair with one device. You then have to disconnect that device to pair with another device. Whereas with We Hear and Hear New, the bone conduction, we actually can pair with up to 2 devices. So now that she's paired with the watch and the headset, she can still pair to a TV and to a phone simultaneously.
At the same time,
At the same time. So basically her phone is the main thing that she uses all the time, every time. Remember, she doesn't have to pick the phone anymore. She just has to see who's calling. she can pick it from the headset, from her hearing aid, and she can continue talking normally with her phone in her pocket. So she doesn't need the phone. So we are actually even helping people, which we also have a lot of side units, which we call We Hear OX, which has been developed from the hearing aid, which is just for people like yourself and people who are concerned, they don't want to all the time to be using the phone or to use pods and stuff that go inside the ear. So we use bone conduction headsets, which is called We Hear OX. And this actually shows you that the ability to hear through your bone as a normal person. So we also have those kind of products as well. But in terms of the hearing, they have a watch. It comes with a smart watch, which is like it acts as the sound receiver, and then you have the headset.
Okay. I want us to do the demonstration, and as you had mentioned, we have one of our colleagues who's here. His name is Jose. If Jose can just come in, and then you just show us how you do a demonstration on that. And even as he comes in, maybe you can just quickly tell us about the quality, the sound quality of it.
Vivian, I can just tell you that today, since I joined hands with my uncle in working with this revolutionary product, I have not used an earphone since then. I only use bone conduction. It is so much safer for your space. You can see, actually, I actually had a surgery last January in regards to the ear. So to put in an ear pod or something is very painful. In fact, the surgery is still not healed completely. You can still feel it's a bit ripe. But the thing is that people who have surgeries and stuff like that, if you don't have another solution, then you're not going to be able to hear. So this is the reason that I have actually switched completely to bone conduction. And you can see the world is actually thick. So
you can do that. You can do the demonstration.
Mention, so I actually did get Joseph's audiogram before. And I have programmed this piece to just show you. Joseph had a history of, he works here, so you would know as well. But when we met as a pre-meeting, he has been deaf in 1 year since he was born. And
Jose can actually speak to us. Hi, Jose.
Hi.
You're well?
I'm good.
Good to have you here. Maybe you can just tell us a bit about
before we fit this,
your
what
story,
your problem is.
As he fixes it.
Okay.
Weza tuelezea tu
hapo mbeleni, for as long as I know, huku kulikuwa hakuna kitu.
Hiyo sikio hiyo hilo hapo
ilikuwa ina network. Nijawahi sikia for as long as I knew myself. So God works in miraculous ways. Tulikutana na one of my colleagues, tukakuja tukapatana na daktari. Hakujua sisikii na sikujua kuna mazuri mambo ya this gadget. So ika happen kwamba wakati wanafanya majaribio nikamwambia hata mimi sisikii. And that is how I'm here now.
That's how you're here now. Wow. That's amazing. You can just do the demonstration.
So, like I said, this is the hearing aid. It comes with a watch, a smart watch, which acts as the sound receiver and the headset. So all I'm going to do is fit Joseph with the headset. Just make sure that he's comfortable. So it just sits behind the ear. Just turn around. Right. Are you comfortable?
Yeah.
Okay. And I have the watch has already paired with him automatically with the thing.
So an audiogram was done before,
he did go to, I asked him to go to an audiologist.
Okay.
He did an audiogram. He gave me the audiogram on WhatsApp. I programmed it this morning before I met him. I just programmed it on my own. That is the beauty of our hearing aids. The one thing is that we can program our hearing aids in the middle of the beach or in a market. We don't need to go to a specific office, use specific hardware. So this is a test which I would like you to do as well. Just speak to...
I'm tied to the seat, so I can't really stand.
You just pass the watch to her?
Yeah.
Just keep the watch on the table, talk normally, and you can ask him as many questions as you want, because I believe he's already hearing.
Can I whisper?
Yes, whisper.
I can also whisper. Hi, Jose.
I'm good.
You can hear me?
Very well.
Oh, this is amazing. So that's the ear that couldn't hear at all. So
Exactly.
for the longest time you've been hearing na ili sikio lingine.
Yeah, the other time before this, ungeongea ninge have kuturn slightly.
Yeah.
But you see right now you are talking and I'm facing ahead.
Yeah.
So I'm actually cool.
You see, Vivian, the other thing is that even if I ask Joseph to face this way, not from me, I can talk that way, and our hearing aid gives him full 360 degrees because the sound is being captured by the watch. And you can see how far the watch is. Joseph, did you hear what I said?
Yeah.
So you see, this is the beauty of it.
Yeah.
It sounds like pre-planned, but it's actually a miracle. Because the technology has made it so easy to the layman person that we don't want to complicate things. We want people to go home. The other thing is, just for everyone to know, is, Vivian, these bone conduction hearing aids, we give you a 3-year warranty. That is unheard of in terms of warranties, because today if something goes wrong with Gladys, she doesn't have to stress if the piece, unless she has gone physically and cut it or broken it or something. But otherwise, if something does go wrong, but we are so confident in the product that we can give you a 3-year warranty to give you the hearing ability.
Yeah. Okay, so this Jose needs to put it on.
So basically, Jose, like if he's in a meeting, if he's come to a show or a meeting, he just needs to put it on the table and the sound will be captured through that.
Okay.
When he's on his own, he wears it as a watch.
Yeah.
Assume it's a lady. So the lady can remove the bands and put it in her pocket or in her purse.
Okay.
But when she is talking to people, she must put it so that the sound can be captured.
So for those who may be wondering, Jose is one of us right here at KBC. He's our driver. Amekuwa akituendesha tunatujui ati one of the ears is not working. So it's good to know that saizi uko sawa. So saizi ukituongelesha, you don't need to lean in closer.
But imagine now, you're saying he was a driver. Now imagine if he's driving and you can't hear in one ear, and if cars are coming, it's very dangerous. So this actually will now assist him to continue living in that, because he will walk from here to the Matatu stand, busy time, crowded time, there are a lot of people, this, that. He's unable to, if one ear is blocked and someone has done something on the other side and he's not able to know. So what have we done here is through the bone. His audiogram shows profound deafness in one ear completely. But because the bone is still active, he's able to hear.
Okay. Jose, any words ambazo ungetaka kutuelezea as we finish now?
Chenye nataka kuambia watu ni kwamba now that this technology is here, watu wasiogope kujitokeza. Wakuje, the thing is here, it's at home. You can get it at a subsidized price. Na uendelee na maisha. Usiangalie pesa.
Okay.
Hivyo tu.
All right, your final remarks. We need to wind up just quickly.
Okay, I just want to thank our director for coming and helping Jose.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you so much. Now you can maybe just very few words, in less than a minute, just let people know where maybe they can be able to find you, because I'm sure there are very many people who may be having this condition and they may need help.
Thank you, Vivian. Look, first of all, I want to thank you and the KBC team. This is fantastic. I'm so happy that we've been able to show this, and hopefully a lot of people will get the awareness that please don't be scared of hearing disability. Please be confident that it's affordable now. We can really assist you. Everywhere there are audiologists. Please remember, an audiologist is very important. You must go to an audio and get an audiogram, or if it's tinnitus, you must get an audiometric.
Where to find you? Our time is up.
To find us, please contact us, Express Nova. We are in industrial area on Dar es Salaam Road. We would like to give you a number, 0798 566 970. Please contact us for any help in the hearing space.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you, Jose. Thank you, Gladys. And this is where we get to end Good Morning Kenya for today. Thank you so much to each and every one of you who has been tuned in. Do enjoy the rest of your viewing. Goodbye.
carbon neutral energy, new medicines to treat cancer or COVID, and foldable screens. Thanks to quantum computers, these could be innovations of the future. For years, scientists have been confident that these processors will be the next big tech revolution. But how far have developers really come? And what can we gain? Quantum computers, that's our topic today on Shift. Quantum computers won't be replacing our laptops or smartphones. But apart from developing new medicines and materials, I think one aspect is especially interesting. Quantum computers can perform complex simulations, like predicting extreme weather very accurately. Across the globe, developers are trying to create computers with the highest amount of qubits. A qubit is the most basic unit of quantum computing. The more qubits a computer has, the more information it can process. Many companies like IBM and Google are competing to develop the most advanced quantum computer. Google's quantum computer recently simulated a wormhole, the holy grail in physics. So what are they doing in these quantum labs? After sending countless emails, we were finally able to visit the Google Quantum AI Lab in Santa Barbara in the US. An incredible experience. Outside, the sun is shining. Inside the lab, some areas have temperatures of minus 273 degrees Celsius. The lab is run by German scientist Hartmut Neven, widely recognized as a pioneer in quantum computing.
This somewhat unremarkable building is where Hartmut Neven wants to revolutionize the tech world. It's located on a separate high-security part of the university campus in Santa Barbara, California. Here, the German scientist and head of Google's Quantum AI Lab is working on a processor that could solve all the problems a classic computer can't.
Let's start with what I think many would agree is the most pressing problem of our time, that is climate change. It would be marvelous to have a nuclear fusion reactor. Now, a nuclear fusion reaction is when two nuclei, which are both positively charged, come close enough together so that they snap together, form a new nucleus, and then some energy is released.
Some scientists hope that this could help reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Unlike traditional power plants, nuclear fusion does not release any carbon dioxide.
But those two positively charged nuclei, they don't want to come close together. It's like as kids, we know when we have two magnets, that of the same polarity, they don't want to come close together. So this process, to properly model it, quantum mechanical laws are required. So it stands to reason that quantum processor would help us hasten the design of a nuclear fusion reactor.
When quantum computers were still just a theoretical concept, Hartmut Neven already believed in their potential. And his passion has convinced others after his doctorate. He does research at one of the most renowned universities in the USA. Neven co-founded two companies developing facial recognition technology. One of those companies was acquired by Google and laid the foundation for Google Glasses. Glasses with an integrated computer. In 2013, Hartmut Neven started working on the Quantum AI Lab for Google.
I have spent many years in the field of computer vision and machine learning. To train a machine learning system, to train a neural network, for example, to recognize certain objects in an image, you have to solve a type of problem that's known as an optimization problem. And it has been proven analytically that quantum processors can solve these problems more efficiently.
When the company Intel presented the first quantum chip with 49 qubits with much fanfare in Las Vegas in 2019, Neven announced in a small blog entry that his team had already built a chip with 72 qubits. Shortly thereafter, he claimed to have proven the functionality of the Google quantum computer. 200 seconds for a computational task that would take 10,000 years on a supercomputer. IBM and many others are doubtful. Hartmut Neven is a leading scientist in quantum physics, But that doesn't change the fact that it will take years until a workable quantum computer will have been developed.
Quantum computers can compute very quickly, but there aren't many practical ways to use them yet. They're also prone to errors, and programming and production is very complex. Quantum electronics engineer Marissa Justina explains what these computers could mean for the future.
Quantum computers won't replace laptops or PCs, but they will assist them.
You probably won't see it much in your day-to-day life. So a quantum computer is not a replacement for a regular computer. It's more of an assistant to the regular computer. To make a transportation analogy, when humans were wanting to travel to the moon, it was clear that you need a rocket. You need some kind of technology that's different from what we use to get around on the ground. Now we have those technologies, it does not change the way you go to the grocery store. So similarly, having a quantum computer will not likely change the way you do your day-to-day activities, but it will be a research tool that allows for possibly revolutionary changes in, for example, materials development or pharmaceutical development. So the way you will experience it more would be kind of the second-level effects.
Medicines could become more efficient and affordable thanks to quantum computers. They can simulate molecular structures in a matter of seconds and calculate the combination of active ingredients, which could replace testing them in laboratories. This would enable pharmaceutical companies to develop and release medicines much faster. We can also benefit from quantum computers when it comes to traffic. The quantum computers are able to process very large amounts of data in seconds. They could calculate routes, taking traffic lights and speed limits into account, keeping traffic flowing.
Future quantum computers will be good at testing many different scenarios to find the best one. Why are they more efficient at this than so-called supercomputers? Well, they use the rules of quantum mechanics, which apply to microcosmic processes. The principle of quantum mechanics suggests that particles can exist in two separate locations at once, having the value of 0 and 1. Sounds too complicated? Check this out.
Laptops, calculators, or smartphones, they all use the information unit bit, which can appear as either 1 or 0. Quantum computers use the laws of quantum physics instead and work with quantum bits or qubits. Rather than switching between 0 and 1, qubits can be both simultaneously or appear as something in between. This principle is called superposition and can be explained by using coins. To represent one bit, heads or tails need to be on top. It's